now, rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live. Somebody, let's go.
Good morning. Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in great spirits, because another day above the dirt is always a blessing. Let's not forget that, baby. Let us not forget that. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Is it Thursday? I'm losing my doggone mind. Okay. Happy Thursday to all of y'all. Hopefully it's all been wonderful. It's been everything you wanted it to be and more. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, we started a tiny bit earlier than usual today because there's a lot of news and there's some other stuff that is popping off. Oh, thank you. Think this jacket is fire? Thank you. You know, we trying to up this stilo over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to make sure the visuals are on point. You feel me? So there it is. All right. But I appreciate you guys being here. It means a lot. Thank you so very, very much. All right. So hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do it to do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick, make sure you hit that follow button. Subscribe here to my YouTube channel. Man, subscribe. Subscribe, dag nabbit. Because things are getting what is it? Thicker than a snicker out here in these streets. A lot of things getting thick. A lot of thickums. So subscribe. Okay? Okay? Make sure you subscribe, dag nabbit. Hit that notification bell down below. Set it to all, so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because honestly, it is random. Okay? Honestly, it is random, so make sure you do that too. All right? Hit that join button down below, become a member. Check out my Patreon. And of course, it's in the ticker right there, down below, going that way. And of course, check out PascalMerch.com. We got some really great stuff over there, man. So go check it out, PascalMerch.com. Okay, guys. Okay. All right. So yeah, I wore this for a reason, this jacket, because it seems like, as much as they say the ceasefire has happened, the more it seems like we are still at war. And I'm gonna say something really, really quick. Okay, let me just hit this off right off the bat, because I feel like the general consensus is exactly what I'm about to say. I'm confused. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I'm confused. You know, and also the reason why I'm wearing this jacket is because I'm getting ready for the draft. You feel me? I'm totally kidding. Peace, love. I'm a pacifist. I have bone spurs. Gout. I mean, even in this situation, so I don't get drafted, I like the mans. That's not true. That's not true. Like, not at all. Ladies, hold on. Yeah, I got pink eye. I'm deaf and blind on opposite sides of my head. It just depends on what day. Some days my left eye, I can't see out of my left eye, but then my right ear, I'm deaf. And then it swaps. It just, for some odd reason, it just does an X kind of thing. So I can't hear and see out of one eye, but it's like on the opposite side. It's like God wanted to balance my face. I got shin splints. I have oh God. I have a chronic pulled hammy disease. I always seem to pull a hammy. Always seem to pull a hamstring when it's most convenient or when it's most inconvenient, like running away from the ops. Ooh, 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 ooh. Everyone's like, what's going on? My hammy. Damn it, you and your chronic hammy disease. You see what I'm saying? Anything to dodge the draft, right? Just saying. But anyway, outside of all of that mucky muck, because I worry for our 18 to 25-year-olds, our men, okay? I worry. I definitely worry because that draft is real. That draft is going to happen. If Pete Hegseth and Trump have anything to say about it, we got some issues. We got some problems. All right. We got some serious problems, but I digress. Let's get back to the conversation in itself. I'm confused, everybody. Okay. And a lot of y'all going, but why, Pascal? Why are you confused? You ain't confused too? We just heard a couple days ago that there was going to be a ceasefire. And then out of nowhere, there ain't going to be no ceasefire. Or it seems like there isn't a ceasefire going on. In fact, you got Iran now putting out threats towards America and Israel because of what's going on in Lebanon. They are still dropping bombs on each other. Beirut just got hit hard. It's just not ending. So as much as they say the ceasefire is happening, nothing is ceasing. The ceasefire ceases to exist. Bars. Okay? The ceasefire ceases to exist. And what did I say about Joe Pesci? What did I say about Joe Pesci, y'all? What did I say? What did I say? And some of y'all said in the chat when we were all talking about, yes, ceasefire, Hercules. Remember when we first talked about the ceasefire? There won't be a civilization all gonna die. You know what I mean? We were very happy about that because we don't want that to happen to the Iranian people. What happened? Somebody said, you mean mine? Israel going to go rogue, cabron. And you guys were right. Even I said that. I was like, damn, I'm really worried that Joe Pesci is going to Joe Pesci the situation. And they still doing it. They still doing it. They're dropping bombs on Lebanon like it's going out of style. It's not good. And now you got the president of Iran basically saying like, yo, I thought we agreed upon some sort of ceasefire, including our brothers and sisters in Lebanon. And now the president of Iran is sitting here going, oh, that's no bueno. I know they don't speak Spanish. Okay, they don't speak Spanish over there, but you get what I'm saying. Interesting, right? Don't you find that a little bit interesting? So we're in quite a bit of a conundrum, don't you think? We're in a bit of a conundrum. And, and I was going to pull up this video. I'm going to show this to you guys in a second, but we need to discuss this too. And I just did it as a short this morning because, I saw last night and I was like, man, I am just too exhausted to even talk about this bullshit right now. Literally. I said, first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to talk about it. All right. I'm going to talk about it because in my mind, I was like, this can't be real. Maybe there's some dirt in my eye, from the run that I did or something like that. I don't know. I thought I was losing my mind when I saw this last night. And I'm like, oh my word. I woke up this morning and I'm like, nope, I wasn't dreaming. Nope, I wasn't in the pain cave, hallucinating, thinking of the worst or anything like that. No, this is real. So eligible mans, and no, we ain't talking about the Bachelorette, will it automatically be registered for military draft for a military draft pool beginning in December. I'm just going to let that sink in while I take this sip of coffee. Anybody remember Vietnam? I know some of y'all be like, oh, damn. We talking about Nam? And don't get me wrong, thank you for your service, and I'm sorry for the lifetime of PTSD. PTSD, that's right. Okay? Sorry about that. I didn't do it, though. I didn't inflict that upon you. It was the government that did that to you. I'm sorry, but thank you so much for your service, because y'all didn't deserve that. And for those y'all who were drafted into this mother lover, into that war, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you too, because you didn't ask for that either. The ones that weren't able to dodge. Like Trump. But again, so we're back at this again. A situation that, if I remember correctly, I mean, I wasn't born during the time of Nam, okay? But last I checked, they said that they wouldn't do something like this unless it was absolutely dire. They would never do the draft. They realized, we made mistakes, America. My American citizens, we made mistakes. We ain't never going to do that unless it's real dire. So is it dire right now? Because the way I'm reading this article, the vibe I'm getting is that less and less kids are choosing the life of military because either they go, I like my life and I don't want to die, or they don't want to fight, they don't want to do war, or they find another career path. Become electricians or plumbers or something. I don't know. The options are vast, more vast than maybe in the 70s. Start an account on OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? Like, real talk. Pics of feet. You see what I'm saying? Plenty of opportunities and plenty other options than going out there and fighting for a war that you may not even believe in, which is exactly what we're seeing right now as we speak, are we not? I mean, we in a ceasefire right now. We'll just put that in a very loose, hanging off the last screw, very loose quotations, okay, around that word ceasefire. But we're supposed to be in a ceasefire. And for a fact, a good portion of those soldiers are over there fighting a war that they don't really give a damn about. In fact, they're probably like, what fight? What's this war? They all want to send an email to the president. What are we doing here? Why are we here? What is it for? Excuse me, you said because you were anointed by God? Because Jesus said for you to do this? This is a crusade? This is a quest now? Huh? Excuse me? So it's already happening right now as we speak. A lot of soldiers are backing down. A lot of officials, a lot of high-ranked brass they're losing their jobs because they're refusing the demands from Pete Hegseth. CENTCOM is even declining demands from Pete Hegseth, because they're like, oh, so you want to bomb a school? No, we can't do that. Sorry, sir. There's civilians there. Oh, no, you want to do this as well? No, we know we can't. We can't do that either. There's civilians there too. Oh, you want to destroy an infrastructure? Sorry, sir. We can't bomb that either, because that would be a war crime. Even CENTCOM is sitting here going, what the hell are we doing here? And now they are starting to basically forcibly register young men from 18 to 25 for a military draft pool starting in December. What the hell are they planning? Think about that for a second. Why would you turn this on, automatically enlisting men 18 to 25 in December? Starting in December, it's all going down. What the hell are they planning? Take a look at this. Take a look at this. United States will automatically register eligible men age 18 to 25 for a military draft pool beginning in December. The rule change was submitted by the SSS, interesting, SSS. Anyway, Selective Service System, which maintains a database of Americans who would be able to serve in the military. This statutory change transfers responsibility for registration from individual men to SSS through integration and federal data sources, the agency website said. It adds that the rule change remains under review by Regulatory Affairs and is awaiting finalization. So they, of course, the Daily Mail, where we're reading this article, reached out to the Pentagon and the White House for comment. The last time a draft was conducted in the U.S. was in the 70s, during America's highly controversial involvement in the Vietnam War. NAM. Despite no active conscription, men between the ages of 18 to 25 had still been registered or required to register with the SSS should one be activated. The agency's website said that this rule change will merely streamline this process as part of a workforce realignment. Workforce realignment. This agency says that this change will merely streamline this process as part of a workforce realignment. What the hell does that mean? You know what that means to me? To me, it sounds like not enough men are registering for the military, and they're trying to get an uptick. You know, like, I don't know about you guys, but remember when like in high school they had the colleges, there'd be like a college day, you know, at the school, in the high school's gymnasium, right? And you go in and you get to see the like University of Idaho, and you get to see, you know, other colleges like Harvard and, you know, Boston U, or you know what I'm talking about, right? And the, you know, your local universities and all that, and they're all in there talking, blah blah blah, right? And talking to potential students, come on, register, you know, or, you know, apply to our school, da 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 da. Yeah, or career day, right? And so suddenly, that's weird because career day is kind of, does career day even exist? I've only seen that in TV shows. Is that a real thing? Career day? I've never seen that. I've seen like colleges coming in, but career day, huh? Interesting. Okay, but anyway, that's a new one for me. I've never seen that. But anyway, my school had like a college day. All the universities showed up. You know, recruiters for those colleges showed up. But then you had the ROTC. You had you had specific branches of the military showing up, right? And they'd have their whole thing, guys dressed up, everything looking perfect, blah blah blah. You know, you want to register, you want to protect our country, you want to do the honorable job, you know, that kind of thing. Anyway, guys would go over there and, you know, pick up a few things just to see if there's options, you know, and there are people that would actually register. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But then there's other people that go, no, I don't want to do that. And I feel like it's getting less and less as we get older and we get more and more generations out here, right? There are less and less kids going, hey, I'm enlisting and I'm going to go fight for our country. I feel like it's getting less and less. So I feel like this workforce realignment situation that's going on is literally about that. You see what I'm saying? That's the vibe I'm getting. Okay. That is not, it's not a tidal wave of people going, yeah, I want to fight for our country. I feel like there are many other options for kids, for many options for career paths for kids nowadays than maybe what it was back in the day. You see what I'm saying? So I think they're trying to get an uptick. There have been multiple proposals to also add women, young women, to the draft, but none that have passed into law. And it's not going to happen under on Pete Hegseth's watch. It is not going to happen. Pete Hegseth is not going to sit there and go, yeah, let's bring in some women. In fact, bring in black women. Let's bring in some black women. No, he ain't going to do that. He ain't down for that. Men who fail to register face a fine up to $250,000, 5 years in prison, and loss of eligibility for federal programs. Shortly after the war in Iran began, White House Press Secretary Caroline refused to rule out the option on an appearance with Bartiromo. I don't know who that is, but Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. So she refused to rule out that possible option of a draft being used in the near future, or forcing men between 18 to 25 to automatically be put into a draft pool. That's crazy. President Trump wisely does not remove options off the table. I know a lot of politicians like to do that quickly. She insisted, however, that's not part of the current plan. Donald Trump has so far publicly downplayed the option of deploying ground troops, saying he'd only do so, quote unquote, if necessary, but it would be a quote unquote waste of time. But at the same time, reports emerged of sources claiming the president has privately expressed serious interest in such a deployment. So this particular Maria Bartiromo noted that mothers are worried there would be a draft that takes their sons to war. And I think that I get it. I can see why a lot of people would be very concerned about the possibility of their loved ones, their sons, being drafted into a war that they may not be okay with, or they may not fully understand why we are in this why we're in this war in the first place. And look how much of a conundrum it is right now. We are in such a cluster F right now. We don't know which end is up. And that's a big problem, if you ask me. Okay? Iran is saying new things now, and it's not making the situation any better, y'all. Take a listen.
Welcome back. Good Thursday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo. I hope you're having a great Thursday morning. It is
there's not a lot of people excited about this morning today. A lot of people are like, what the hell's going on overseas? Because they're worried about what's going on. And if their kids, their sons, their daughters that already are enlisted, right? Are they going to be sent overseas here in just a minute? But all of us were sitting there going, woo, we could chill. Thank God, because, Trump did say, whole civilization gonna die tonight. He did say that the other day. And we're all like, oh my God, he's about to start WW Trace, right? He gonna start WW Trace. And then suddenly ceasefire sprouts out of nowhere. An agreement comes out of nowhere, and we're all sitting there going, we are all taking a sigh of relief. But then suddenly, as we're taking a sigh of relief, we are still gasping for air immediately, because new-ish is going down that's giving us the idea that this ceasefire may not stick. Like I said, this ceasefire ceases to exist, y'all.
Thursday, April 9th. It is 7:01 on the East Coast. We kick off the hour with the hot topic of the hour. President Trump says he is sending a negotiating team to Pakistan this weekend to discuss ending the conflict with Iran. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are set to go. But the president told the New York Post that VP J.D. Vance may not attend because of security concerns. Not sure there. He is still set to lead these talks in Islamabad. Here's J.D. Vance in Hungary yesterday.
We have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. I'm happy about where we are. The president has struck a good deal for the American people. The Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that.
Now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday clarified the plan that Iran sent to U.S. negotiators to help broker peace. Here's what she said. Watch.
The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. This is on the top of the priority list for the president.
Have they given any indication that they would turn it over?
They have.
They have.
Yes.
Israel, meanwhile, is insisting that the ceasefire does not apply to Lebanon, vowing that further strikes against Hezbollah targets in the country will continue. Leavitt reiterated that point as well yesterday. Watch.
Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire.
Now, Iran's foreign minister had pushed back yesterday, posting on X this, the U.S. must choose between a ceasefire or, quote, continued war via Israel. He's also threatening to reverse Tehran's commitment to reopening the Strait of Hormuz as a result of the strikes to Lebanon yesterday. Meanwhile, President Trump said that he's considering a joint tolling program with Iran in the Strait. Fox News learning that ships could be charged a percentage of the cargo on the vessel or a flat fee. Mark Tepper, that's what you get with a business.
Hold on, let me roll that back. I want us to see this. So the terms are clear and explicit. This is from, this is from Iran. Okay, the U.S. must choose ceasefire or continued war with via Israel. It cannot have both. The world sees the massacres in Lebanon. The ball is in U.S. court or in the U.S. court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments. So again, this is a dun-dun-dun. You realize how bad this is. Quite a conundrum. This is quite a bit of a conundrum, don't you think? You got the likes of Iran basically saying, yo, y'all are out of pocket with this one. You're saying we're going to cease fire. We're going to stop all this madness so that we can talk. And then suddenly out of nowhere, Israel, Joe Pesci, decides to just go ham. They revved up bombing. They revved up bombing over the last 2 days. Since the start of this ceasefire, they said, F it. We're going to blast. We're going to shoot everything we got. Give them everything we got. Yeah, Israel, Jordan, you're right. Jordan's world, absolutely. Israel is acting up. They are acting a fool. They are wilding out. And Trump, America, is just standing on the side being like, hey, that's his fight. We ain't got nothing to do with that. If he wants to be acting a fool on this, I ain't got no leash on him. I ain't got no control over him. If he wants to act a fool, then he's going to act a fool. Let him do his thing. That's between y'all. Y'all figure that out. Between you and me, though, we ain't blasting any missiles. Do you see us doing anything? We ain't doing nothing. We trying to work a deal out with you. That's it, homie. Whatever's going on with Israel, hands off on that one. If he wants to go unhinged, I cannot vouch for him. In fact, our ceasefire has nothing to do with Lebanon, which is insane. Which is absolutely insane. Because they were under the understanding that the ceasefire had everything to do with stopping everything. And that's not happening. Now, is it? Let me hop ahead a little bit here.
Looking for opportunities to make the most of the strait right now.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't matter if there's a 5-point plan, a 10-point plan, a 25-point plan. It seems like President Trump and the United States are willing to negotiate on every single one of those points except one. The non-negotiable is the enriched uranium that Iran cannot have. They have enough currently to make 10 nuclear weapons in the matter of just 1 week by further enriching it. That has to end. And it seems like, you know, if there's a joint effort to toll in the Strait of Hormuz, so be it.
Yeah, and I don't think, Todd, that it's a lot to ask to tell Iran we want you to stop supporting, you know, terrorist proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas.
True, but the fundamental question, Marie, is this administration there in Iran willing to do truly any of this? And, you know, I'm just so worried that this delay, which, you know, it was a necessary evil, I do agree, but I'm worried that it's going to allow this Iranian regime to build up their weapons capacity in a war that they were losing terribly, and allows them to further entrench themselves in these positions, which, yes, are untenable for the rest of the world. But in Iran, you know, they seem like they're ready to go down with this ship. And I'm just worried about what happens 2 weeks from now.
Well, I also want to know what happens with Europe. I mean, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte yesterday at the White House after the president expressed frustrations with NATO allies over the lack of their involvement in Iran. I mean, after all, you know, they said this is not our war. Well, Ukraine was not the U.S.'s war, by the way. The president posted on Truth Social, NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Yeah. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice? President Trump still reconsidering the U.S.'s role in NATO, with new reports that the U.S. could punish any NATO country who did not support the mission, Todd.
It's just part of this overall thing that basically propelled Donald Trump into office. If you remember, among other things, it's why does the United States always have to do everything for everybody else and nobody does anything for us? This is still happening. And, you know, good on Donald Trump for saying it has to end now because this is ridiculous. We needed one simple thing from you, like a place to land our planes, and you couldn't even do that. It's not right.
Right. All right. We'll take a break and come right back.
I mean, it's a good point, but that's the thing. We have a tendency. We are the, you know, it's like we're like a drama vulture. Not a trauma vulture, but a drama vulture. And whenever there's drama, whenever there's an issue, we stick our nose into that business. We make it our problem. We make it our business. That's a big problem. That is a big problem. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what is it that we are getting at the end of it? Not much. But he's using it as an opportunity for him. He's seeing it as a financial opportunity. This is all a financial opportunity for him. Let's be real. Now it is. He's like, more than ever. Wait, you mean I could maybe get some of this oil, but then also get a little piece of that pie off of the Strait of Hormuz? Sure, say less. Yeah, we'll back off. Let's work out a deal, right? Let's make a deal, right? This is just crazy, but let's continue on because there's a whole lot more, okay? Because now Trump is threatening serious. He's now throwing out threats, lethal force. Again, we're back to that all over again.
He's responding to the attacks on Beirut by closing the Strait of Hormuz.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks is live in Israel with the latest.
Hold on,
Trey.
So Tehran is responding to the attacks on Beirut by closing the Strait of HORMUZ.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks is live in Israel with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. This comes amid talks this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan. The U.S. delegation will be led by Vice President J.D. Vance and Special Envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The president overnight on Truth Social issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying in part, quote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. Now, this is coming as all eyes remain on the Strait of Hormuz. We understand yesterday that 4 vessels were able to pass through the strait. Iran does maintain control and says that vessels who pass through the strait have to coordinate with their military. Yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance issuing another warning to the Iranian regime at the negotiating table.
Fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation.
Now, the Iranians are threatening to leave these negotiations if Israeli strikes against Hezbollah continue. Dozens of strikes took place yesterday. A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that up to 200 Hezbollah combatants were killed in those strikes. Lebanese media and officials report that many civilians were also among the dead. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday speaking about the goals of this operation.
We have more goals to complete, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by renewing the fighting. We are prepared to return to fighting at any moment necessary. Our finger is on the trigger.
The question is whether or not they're...
Remember what he said there, right? So, yeah, that's not a great look. I'm gonna be real. That's not a great look. You are literally saying, F what you just, all that hard work that Trump just did. If that was hard work. F all the threats. F Trump threatening to committing war crimes, actually, because even the threat of doing what he said he was going to do to Iran is still committing a war crime, technically, okay? So he literally was committing war crimes, putting everything on the line to try to get this ceasefire, or trying to get them to at least bend a knee. And then when he finally gets some semblance of some sort of ceasefire action going on, whether or not we walked out of there with the L or the W, Israel still says, F you, Trump, we going to keep doing what we're doing. And if we decide to launch some missiles towards Iran, so be it. That's on us. So our finger is always on the trigger when it comes to Iran. What? So all that work, literally Trump putting his whole presidential career, at least in this term, on the line, getting impeached. Articles of impeachment have already been filed. Multitudes of people, lawmakers behind it, Congress people behind the articles of impeachment. He put all that on the line for Netanyahu to go Joe Pesci on his ass. What in the hell is going on? What the hell is going on here, guys?
Iranians are willing to make a good faith deal, and already many officials in Tehran are contradicting the agreement that was laid out to enter into this 2-week ceasefire. There was a top atomic official today saying that Iran will maintain its ability to enrich uranium, and this comes after those comments yesterday from President Trump that an agreement was reached to allow this uranium to be extracted from where it was deeply buried following Operation Midnight Hammer and removed from the country. Guys?
So today's going to be the big day, Trey, because if you cannot get these ships through the strait, I mean, what's the sense of having a ceasefire? Because that's one of the main functions of this ceasefire, to bring things back while they try to work out the details.
Yeah, absolutely. The Iranians lack leverage at the negotiating table. And once again, this is why they are trying to put pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, where around 20% of the world's oil exports actually pass through. And if they continue to do this, it's an indication that they're not willing to make an agreement. This was one of the reasons that the entire region plunged into this conflict, not just the nuclear issue and their pursuit of a nuclear weapon, but also their efforts to try and choke off the global energy trade. And so the Strait of Hormuz will be incredibly critical. And what the Iranians say in the days ahead will be very important. They're trying to put out a lot of propaganda and try to spin the negotiators ahead of this meeting in Islamabad. And if they're able to do so, it again is an indication that they are not serious about keeping the strait open.
Yeah, Trey, why do they have so much control over the strait? We're being told the Iranian foreign minister said that the country will allow safe passage for any vessels, but they have to coordinate with Iran's armed forces and take certain routes.
So a lot of this has to do with the location of the Strait of Hormuz. This is a body of water at this particular point between the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf that is just about 22 miles wide, and the shipping lanes are actually just 2 miles wide each. And so it gives the Iranians the ability to decide when and where ships are able to pass through, because they control one side and Oman controls the other. And if they continue to threaten this shipping lane, it's an indication that the region could plunge back into conflict, because they have the ability with these mines that they can plant and also with shorter range cruise missiles to target vessels. And they did this over the past 40 days. And it's incredibly dangerous for these shipping vessels that pass through this area, because if they're worried about hitting a mine or something else, the Iranians are able to use these relatively cheap vessels to interrupt billions of dollars worth of shipping. Reports also indicate that they are trying to charge a toll for ships that pass through. Some reports even indicate they want $1 per barrel for vessel that passes through, and some of the barrels hold up to 2 million barrels of oil on each individual vessel.
Yeah, $2 million so a pop to get through. Only 4 got through yesterday. Thanks, Trey. There's also a sense that maybe they're telling them where to go because you know where the mines are.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're going in and out.
Of course they're doing that. If they're dropping $2 million, let's just be real. If any of those oil tankers are actually dropping $2 million to get into the Strait of Hormuz and coming back, in and out, damn right, Iran's going to sit there and go, oh yeah, they're all located this way, so follow this path and you'll be Gucci. You know what I'm saying? This is not good. All bad. Okay. Take a look at this.
Overnight, Iran refusing to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz, even though allowing traffic through that vital shipping lane was a key condition of the U.S. ceasefire deal.
No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness.
Iran is
Okay, I understand that part. Okay, a little bit of choppiness, I get that. All right, none of these things are ever going to be perfect. That part, okay. That part is, I get it. There's going to be a little bit of choppiness, but this is not choppiness. This is not choppy. There is no ceasefire going on. They agreed. They agreed to turn the light off, but the lights are still on. Okay? The lights are still on. This ain't like a tiny dim light going on. It's not like they turned the lights off, but just turned on, lit a little candle or two. So you got a little dim candle light going on. No, they said, let's turn the lights off. And they left the lights on. So this ain't choppiness now. Now you got Trump saying, if you don't do anything, if you don't go and do a ceasefire, there will be big problems. Huge problems. How is that a ceasefire if you're still going, if you're saying that? How is it a ceasefire if you're saying that?
protesting Israel's sweeping attacks against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Officials there say nearly 200 people were killed yesterday alone. Roughly 1 in 5 people in Lebanon have now been displaced. Iran claims Lebanon was part of the ceasefire deal. Not so, says the U.S.
I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding.
Vice President J.D. Vance, who's expected to lead peace talks in Pakistan this weekend, insists...
Hold on. What is the legitimate misunderstanding? You see what I'm saying? Can somebody explain that to me? Can somebody break that down for me? What is considered the legitimate misunderstanding? because people are losing their lives. Carnage of the likes we've never seen before is happening right now as we speak. People are losing their lives. People are losing their homes. Where's the misunderstanding, y'all? Now, let me just be real. Let me just say this really quick. It seems like Vance is the only one who's trying to do something. He's the only one who's really trying to like bring peace, because he's the only person who was not cool with the idea of going overseas in the first place. And he's like, if you could do this in a way where we don't get into another forever war, let's do it. But now, when there's a ceasefire that's supposed to be happening and it's not happening, Vance is looking like a fool. But I will say he's the only one that's actively trying to bring peace, just so you know. Don't get me wrong. His smoky eye, okay? Don't let that smoky eye fool you. He's trying to do something. But at the same time, it's not working. And I'm telling you right now, either Trump is going to turn the annihilation switch back on, you know, a whole civilization going to die tonight, which is exactly what he said. He literally said that, y'all. Can you remember that? Remember that. He literally said that. No one's ever said anything like that. No other leader has ever said that. Ever. He said a whole civilization going to die tonight. Have mercy. But he would have done that if they didn't come up with some sort of peace deal or ceasefire agreement. If this ceasefire is not happening, is he going to turn that back on? Is he going to do another deadline? Is he going to sit there and say, oh, you got 10 more days? Or no? And I'm still wanting to know where the 20 tankers, 20 boats of oil at that he said he was supposed to be receiving. Are they en route? Is there an armada of 20 boats of oil filled with delicious, beautiful liquid gold on their way to America right now? I'm just saying. Because that was part of them trying to show peace and trying to say, we're willing to work things out. Remember? One of y'all mentioned that last night. I was like, or yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, you got a point. I totally forgot about that ish. What happened to the 20 boats of delicious, sexy ass oil? Where they at? So again, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? What's the next outcome? Because it doesn't sound like they're going to get to that ceasefire thing at all. Trump needs to have a conversation with Netanyahu. That's the thing. But see, that's the problem. He's still sending threats to Iran right now. Like, you know, bigger and better. He vows bigger and better Iran attacks if a deal is not reached. What he needs to be doing is he needs to start rapping with Netanyahu. He needs to be talking with Netanyahu. That's who he needs to be talking to. Hey, yo, Joey, buddy, yo, my boy Joe Pesci, sit down, chill out, have a drink, and chill. Can we just be cool for a minute? Because we had a ceasefire, my son. We had a ceasefire. And now you're mucking it up, man. You mucking it up. Chill. That's what needs to be happening. He needs to be talking to that dude and saying, hey, stop firing missiles. Let's do this ceasefire and be done with it. But Netanyahu's not going to talk to Trump. His mind is set. His mind is made up. It's not going to stop Netanyahu from doing what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like, oh man, we're going to freshman high school literature right now. Okay, remember that book of Mice and Men? Do you remember Lenny? The rabbits. I want the rabbits because they're soft. They're soft. I want the rabbits, right? Yeah. And big, dumb Lenny, but very violent, right? We going way back. Yeah. Okay. We talking about Lenny. All right. Now, I know Israel is not the size of Lenny. Okay. But it's like they are Lenny. And I forgot the other guy's name, the main character's name. But now I feel like America has to go and say, think of the bunnies, Lenny, and stop him. And I don't mean like brakaka. I'm not saying, take him out. I'm just saying somebody needs to like sweep the leg. You see what I'm saying? Look at the flowers, Lenny. Think of the bunnies. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody. Do you understand that? It may not have been the best analogy, but you get what I'm saying. He's just on this crazy rampage, and he's like, I can do anything. And you're the buddy, you're the friend who's like, he's drunk on power. He's drunk on power. He's so violent, but I love him. He's my best friend. I don't know what to do. Baby. You know what I mean? Because Netanyahu's lost his mind. Somebody needs to sweep the leg, baby. Not take him out, but you know what I'm saying? Somebody needs to sweep the leg. You understand? We all seen that movie. We've all seen that movie, okay? The best friend, the two best friends, they somehow both find power in some sort of way. One of them goes too crazy, gets drunk off their power, and becomes absolutely volatile to the point where the good guy, best friend, has to take him out. We all know it. And it seems like Netanyahu needs to get stopped. And I don't mean in a violent way. I'm just saying sweep the leg. Sweep the leg, man. Just sweep the leg. Before he takes out other precious bunnies. You understand? Damn. And you got to remember, we are like America's massive. We have a lot of power. Why can't he turn? Why can't Trump turn to Netanyahu and say, yo, chill out. Knock him down a peg. Quit doing this. We're trying to make a ceasefire happen. Sit down and shut up. And let's make this happen. You're making things worse. That's it. But they're not. Why not? How does Joe Pesci have more power over Robert De Niro? That just makes no sense to me. It just doesn't. But I digress. It's Lenny with the bunnies, soft, And now he's out here, Lenny out here trying to get with the owner of the farmland's son's girlfriend, messing with her hair and snapping her neck. That's what's happening right now. It's not good. And then now the whole town is looking for Lenny. You see what I'm saying? The analogy is messy, but you get what I'm saying, okay? They just need to sweep the leg. Sweep the mother-loving leg.
Ceasefire is holding.
I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. That said, the Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful.
In a potential sign of progress, Iranian media claims officials have released a map showing a path ships can take through the Strait of Hormuz to avoid mines. The Iranians now pushing a plan to charge ships a toll. President Trump saying, "We're thinking of doing it as a joint venture. It's a way of securing it. It's a beautiful thing."
Hold on. Now, we talked about this yesterday's show, but look how stupid this is. This is ridiculous. We're thinking of doing this as a joint venture. So, of course, he's seeing this as like, hey, we can make a little money. It'd be good. We can make America great again. We can make America great. You know, I love that liquid oil, that liquid gold, right? He's saying, oh, this is going to be a beautiful thing because he sees an opportunity to stack up on that bread. Here's the problem, though. Wouldn't that piss off Israel as well? Think about that for a second. Now, I don't know their relationship. I don't know how far they are with this conversation. But remember, Trump went in and dropped bombs on Iran on behalf of Israel. Israel. Remember that. On behalf, alongside Israel. The strikes happened with Israeli fighter jets flying, dropping bombs on Ayatollah Senior and taking out Ali Khamenei along with 40-something other highly ranked officials as well within the Iranian regime. Then when they go, hey, we're doing a ceasefire, and Trump goes, okay, let's do it. It's going to be huge. They suddenly talk about getting access about Trump or America. We'll see if it actually comes back to America. But Trump getting a cut of the money, the toll that boats will have to pay to get through the Strait of Hormuz. And he's like, we're going to work out a deal with them to make money off the Strait of Hormuz. How do you think that's going to make Israel feel? You think Israel's going to feel okay with that? Do you think Israel isn't suddenly feeling like they're getting betrayed right now? Think about that. You walked into this party with this girl, and now you about to walk out of that party with a whole other girl. You don't think the girl that you walked into the party with ain't gonna be a little bit mad? Oh, and let's not forget, you are talking about her arch nemesis as well. So you walked into the party. This is crazy. Think about this. You walked into this mother-loving party with Israel. And Israel's like, ooh. Oh, that B word, Iran, is right over there. I don't like that B word. She said this, and this about me and all that. I don't like her at all. We've already gotten into scuffles, okay? And if I say aardvark, you better hold my jewelry, honey. Okay, you better have my back. Hey, ain't no problem, girl. You know, that's what I'm here for. We America. We got this, girl. We got this. But then you walk in, and they get into a tussle. And while you're in the middle of it too, going, yeah, I heard you did all kinds of crazy stuff to my girl Israel, Iran. You out of pocket, girl. Then suddenly out of nowhere, something happens. I don't know, she flashes a titty, something like that. Suddenly out of nowhere, you're like, she thick though. Iran be thick though. Now let me rap with you real quick, girl. Come here, Iran. And Israel's standing on the side like the entire time. Because now you got Trump working a deal out with Iran so he can make some bread. So he can rub on that little booty a little bit. Do you understand? You don't think Israel ain't gonna be mad about that? Think about that for a second. Yeah, I know that was the wildest analogy in the world, but I'm keeping it a bean, y'all. Think about that for a second. That is insane. That is insane. So, of course, I'm not justifying Israel still dropping bombs on other places, but but do you understand how insane that is? Of course, Israel's not going to sit there and say, yeah, let's do the ceasefire. They're going to be like, F your ceasefire. Go ahead and rub your little Iran booty. Okay, Trumpy poo. Okay, America, I'm out. You don't think she's out there keying your car and flattening your tires and starting fights with any other person that's in the vicinity that is a friend and a close ally of Iran? That's exactly what's going on right now. Israel tripping hard right now. She big mad. Because Trump cannot stay away from that booty. And what I mean by booty, I mean that money. You see what I'm saying? Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. They walked into this party ready to scuffle. And we're scuffling with the likes of Iran. And then out of nowhere, they're like, okay. Cool. Peace. But come over here, Trump. We got a little something for you, too. We're going to make people pay $2 million to get in this mug. You get a cut. How about that? And now he's like, it's a very beautiful thing. You know for a fact he can't say no to some of that good. So Iran is just going to be cool. So Israel's just going to be cool with that? I highly doubt it. I think that's exactly what's happening right now. It is a girlfriend that has been scorned right in their face. So look at what we're looking at. Let's continue. He says it's a beautiful thing. I don't think Israel's okay with that.
The Financial Times quotes an Iranian official saying the proposed toll could be $1 per barrel of oil. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently dismissed the idea as illegal. Critics warn it could enrich the Iranian regime.
They are making threats about controlling the HORMUZ Straits in perpetuity, creating a tolling system and the like. That's not going to be allowed to happen.
That's interesting. So you now have Marco Rubio sitting here going, like, that's not legal. But Trump's sitting here going, let's do it. Come on. Celebration. It's going to be great, cabron. We're going to make money. And now Marco Rubio's like, no, that's not right. Having a toll to get in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, that's not legal, sir. But Trump's all about it. Oh, dear Lord. This is real life. This is really real life, y'all. This is really happening in real time. And this is the only time I don't think I've ever seen the likes of Marco Rubio saying, oh, yeah, no, you can't do that, sir. That's illegal. You see what I'm saying?
Even if the strait does reopen, analysts warn it could take months for global shipping to recover. Still, experts say drivers here in the U.S. could see gas prices come down slightly in the coming days, falling from the current average of $4.16 per gallon to as low as $3.70 by the end of the month.
Oh, yay. It was way underneath $3 before this whole damn thing started popping off.
The ceasefire holds.
The other question resulting from the ceasefire is what happens to Iran's nuclear material? President Trump says the U.S. will work with Iran to dig up the enriched uranium. Overnight, Trump said if Iran does not comply, U.S. attacks will resume, bigger and stronger than anyone's ever seen, saying our military is, quote, looking forward to its next conquest. Said if Iran does not comply, U.S. attacks will resume, bigger and stronger than anyone's ever seen, saying our military is, quote, looking forward to its next conquest.
President.
Yeah. Let me just say this. Trump is saying that Iran is willing to be like, oh, you're looking for the uranium that we were going to use to make 10 plus nukes? Oh, it's right over here. We'll give you the exact coordinates. Come on. We'll help you. And hey, come here. Muhammad, come here. We gotta help him dig this stuff up. You too, Malcolm. Come on over here. Ali, come here. Come on over here. We need to help them pick this stuff up. Okay? Let's go and dig all this stuff for America and give it right into their hands. You really think that's going to happen? I personally do not see it. I just don't. But let's continue on, shall we?
We're going to start again with those developments coming out of the Middle East. As I bring us out to this, a live image that we have out of Beirut in Lebanon. The Associated Press is saying this, that the Iranian parliament speaker said on Wednesday that a ceasefire and negotiations with the U.S. on ending the war is, quote, unreasonable, as he accused the U.S. of violating 3 of Tehran's 10 conditions for an end to the fighting. It comes as the not yet day-old ceasefire appears at risk of fraying over significant disagreements between both parties. Also, the U.S. and Iran both claiming victory Wednesday after the two countries and Israel agreed to a 2-week ceasefire to halt more than a month of war, even as more drones and missiles hit the Islamic Republic and Gulf Arab states. And Israel has pushed forward its war against the Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon, striking dense commercial and residential areas of Beirut without warning. Lebanon said at least 182 people were killed and hundreds were wounded, making it the deadliest day in the latest Israel-Hezbollah war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Wednesday that the ceasefire deal does not cover fighting against Hezbollah, contradicting what Pakistan, the deal's broker, and other nations had said. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon, and the U.S. demanded that Iran immediately reopen it. So a lot to get to this morning, but I do want to focus on those strikes in Lebanon. And I want to take you out to a brief statement that was issued by the Israel Defense Forces. They posted this video on X talking about that latest wave of strikes.
It's carried out the largest strike against Hezbollah terrorists since the beginning of Operation Roaring Lion. In just 1 minute, the IDF struck 100 Hezbollah military targets in different locations across Lebanon. The targets include command centers, missile infrastructure, and assets used by the Radwan Special Forces. This operation was based on weeks of precise intelligence and careful planning. These strikes come as Hezbollah changes the way it is operating. In recent weeks, the IDF intelligence identified Hezbollah moving beyond its usual strongholds and building positions in more areas across Lebanon, including civilian neighborhoods. Hezbollah's use of civilians as human shields is their strategy. Hezbollah dragged Lebanon into this war, and it is now trying to spread that danger to even more Lebanese communities. Our message is clear. We are fighting Hezbollah, not the people of Lebanon. We said this from day one. We will not allow Hezbollah to pose a threat to our civilians.
And that was the latest video statement from IDF talking about those strikes there in Lebanon. Also bringing us out to this, it's a social media post from Tala Ramadan. She is a news correspondent with Reuters. And she says this: overnight, Lebanon's Hezbollah said early on Thursday it fired rockets at northern Israel in its first attack against the country since the U.S. reached a 2-week ceasefire agreement with Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance said Tehran's negotiators thought the U.S.-Iran ceasefire agreed to included Lebanon, but the U.S. had in fact not agreed to that. So as I mentioned, lots to discuss. So bringing up into the program next is going to be Alex Trayman. He is the...
So, yeah, a lot of confusion hopping back and forth. And of course, we still don't know what is truly going on here. They say a ceasefire is supposed to happen, but the ceasefire is not happening. Now you got Trump sitting here sending out new threats to the Iranian regime, basically saying, hey, if you don't do what we agreed upon, then we are going to turn things back on. Military bombs, the military will be back out there. We'll be reactivating all this crap all over again. This is not good.
Let's hand it on off to Alexandria Huff, live in Washington with the latest on the Iran negotiations. Alex.
Hey, good morning to you both. The U.S. and Iran plan to hold talks this weekend in Islamabad. Vice President Vance leading those. As President Trump says, U.S. forces will remain in the region until a lasting peace.
And I will say this. I don't mean to interrupt this anchor, but I'm going to say this really quick. I don't think any of his team, I don't think any person, Jared Kushner to Witkoff, any of them, J.D. Vance, I think they all should do it via video chat. They should do it on the phone, do it video chat, or something of that sort. They should not be going to Islamabad to do any type of meetings at all until this actual ceasefire is actually happening. Because I'm telling you right now, you really think that they could trust the people of the Iranian regime right now? There was supposed to be a ceasefire that was supposed to happen, and it's not happening. They were already saying during that ceasefire agreement, they already put out a statement, which Trump said was not true, but it is true. It is a real statement. They said that they won. That the Iranian regime won. That America ran away with their tail between their legs. Do you really think it would be a good idea to get into a plane and fly to Islamabad to have a conversation right now? I don't think it would be a good idea. I don't think it would be a good idea at all. This is the time to keep it video chat, do stuff via emails, and keep it moving. This is not, even so, they're not even letting Vice President Vance go there because they're worried because of safety concerns. So Jared Kushner's is the son-in-law to Trump. So Trump's son-in-law is willing to fly out to Islamabad with Witkoff to have a meeting. Nah. It's too risky. It's way too risky, just in my personal opinion. Okay. Yeah, Zoom calls for everyone, baby. That's what I think. Okay. But okay, let's see.
This agreement is made. He wrote this, quote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. Now, the current ceasefire does remain fragile, as you said. Iran claims that...
Suki, yes, I do know about 2CTV. I actually watch him quite a bit just to hear, because I know he's Iranian, but he lives in the UK. And of course, he has been very much gung-ho about this war. He wants liberation. Absolutely. Right. So let me read your comment. But and thank you so much for the comment. There's an Iranian who has his own YouTube channel, and he gives you insight into what the Iranians want, their freedom. And that is true. They want liberation. They want their freedom for sure. And that's one of the main things I feel like his channel has been pushing, because he's been very gung-ho about what's been going on over there. and very supportive of it, right? The situation is hopelessly complicated. Yes, it is. That Iranian channel, in which we already know. So yeah, I do watch his channel whenever I'm not live, just to hear just to hear an Iranian native's opinion and insight on what's going on. And again, he is very much happy about this war. He is supportive of this particular war because of he wants liberation. See what I'm saying? And I get it. The Iranian people deserve liberation for sure. But I don't see that happening right now. In the very beginning, it was about, like I said, we lost the plot. Not we, but Trump. The Trump administration lost the plot. The plot was about regime change, was about liberation. As he said, the women, the gays. He said all that. Liberation, liberation, regime change. And then what happened? Nothing. It keeps morphing and it keeps changing as it keeps slithering down this very complicated street. But at the end of the day, Trump was all about it, all about the liberation. And then he changed his mind. I don't know if he got bored with the war or something of that sort, but as you can see, things have changed quite drastically. And then it went back to the regime change, and then it left the regime change. It like I said, it's just been all over the place. So yes, it has been a very, very complicated, very, very complicated situation over there. Of course, I want liberation for all people, for all countries. I want us all to live happy and live how we want to live. We should all have that right. But when people's lives are hanging at the balance, that's a big problem. Here's the other thing too. How can you, let me ask you this, okay? And it's a very logical and obvious question. How can you liberate a people if there's no one to liberate because you went in there and just took out all of civilization? That's where we were a couple days ago. Think about that. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Liberation for the people all day long. But when you start hurting the people that you're trying to liberate, then you've lost the point. You've lost the plot. The plot's gone. A whole civilization will die tonight. Quote, unquote. Clearly, you're not worried about the liberation of the people anymore. And now it's about something else. Here's the other thing, too. I know I did that crazy analogy of he went into this club or this party with Israel. And now he's in there talking to Iran and Israel's acting a fool. But think about this. You have a bunch of people that would not have been able to drink water, have power as far as electricity, all of that. You're destroying all of their means of life. Then on top of it, now you're in that party conversating about making a deal on the Strait of HORMUZ. And you've completely forgotten about the liberation of the Iranian people. Am I right? Because now you're only worried about making that bread rather than releasing the people from years of tyranny. Let that sink in for a second. We're going to make a deal. Well, it sounds like America might get a piece of that pie. It's going to be beautiful. Huh? Wait, I thought you were here about liberation of the people. The women and the gays, as you say. So where's that? that has nothing to do with making money off the Strait of Hormuz. So, and in fact, this whole thing wasn't even about the Strait of Hormuz to begin with, baby. So, what's going on here? You see what I'm saying? Whole civilization will die tonight. That's not about liberation of people. That's actually making their lives even worse, if you ask me. But I'm just a guy with a microphone. Let's continue.
It has already been breached by Israeli strikes on Lebanon targeting Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed militant group vowed to continue attacks on Israel. In response to that, the U.S. and Israel both say Lebanon was not included in the ceasefire, a misunderstanding, according to Vice President.
What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel.
Why is that? And here's the other thing too. Sorry, I know we're coming back to this crap, and we're gonna move on from this part with JD Vance. But please explain to me why we are trying to justify Israel. Why are we trying to justify Israel's doing? You see what I'm saying? Like, why are we trying to justify what they're doing to Lebanon right now? Because they're not just going after like some sort of regime. They're going after civilians as well. They're unhousing a lot of people in Iran, or I'm sorry, in Lebanon. So again, why are we out here trying to justify this ish when we should just be trying to give peace a chance, or at least the ceasefire a chance? But like I said, in my personal opinion, this ceasefire does not exist. But it's giving a chance. It's giving Trump a chance to not commit war crimes anymore. That's literally what it is. It's like, oh, thank God, we got something. We could take a step back. But the chaos and the craziness is still revving up. I know we've heard this a trillion times, but I'm going to play a little bit more of this.
Israel and the Gulf Arab states. If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
Iran's foreign minister, he objects to that, writing this: the Iran-U.S. ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The U.S. must choose ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. The world sees the massacres in Lebanon. The ball is in the U.S. court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments. Iranian state media also reporting that Tehran has closed the Strait of Hormuz. This is a major point of contention and of disagreement right now. The U.S. and allies demand it remains open. Okay.
All right, Alexandria Hoff, live for us in Washington. Alex, thank you. Let's bring in Chief Strategist of the Middle East Forum and former U.S. Army Special Forces member Jim Hansen. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. We got a little bit of clarity yesterday when it comes to the starting point for these negotiations with White House Press Secretary.
I'm sorry, they missed his neck. They missed his whole neck. Oh, have mercy. There's like 3 tones going on. You got blue and then like peach and then like tanned peach. I'm sorry. 3 tones. You don't see that? I can't unsee it now. They didn't even try to blend. They didn't even try to blend, baby. Like not at all. You feel me? Like he got a mask on or something. Like that ain't even his face. He got that from he got that from Party City. You know, a mask from Party City, and just put it on his face. Yeah, it's like a tan peach though. It's like a tan peach, and then there's like a pale peach, and then there's this blue. You don't see that? Okay. I'm sorry, man. I'm too observant. I hate it. It's a blessing and a curse. Let's move on.
Caroline Levitt, listen here.
The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was.
Remember the 10-point plan? Yeah, I'm giving out makeup tips like I know what the hell I'm doing. Like I know how it's done. I mean, I know about blending the neck. You know what I mean? Yo, fellas, come on now. You know for a fact, if you saw a girl out and she might be fine as hell, okay? She might be fine, like fine, right? But it's like it cut off, the makeup cuts off here. So you just, you know what I'm saying? It's just two-toned. You feel me? Like you can't not. It's an eyesore, okay? Because ladies, we understand the kind of work it does. It's like the kind of work you put in to making the fuss look amazing, right? But sometimes y'all don't blend. You know what I mean? At least get it underneath, like into, so it looks like it's one cohesive, thought. You feel me? Us guys see that too. We see it. We don't care. We still banging, but at the same time, we see it. We see it. Okay? We don't say it until later. No, we don't say it until we're really like in a relationship, and they'll be like, baby, yeah, no, you look great. Ooh, look at you. A vision. You need to blend. Like, right, yeah, you look amazing, but that needs to blend. You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying, we see it too. Okay, we don't need to be experts to know if something's a little off. Okay? Sorry. Blend, babies. Ladies, blend. Oh, and moisturize. And SPF. Okay? Use that sunblock, baby. Okay? Yeah, please. I don't want y'all aging like milk. All right? Okay? I'm using milk not because of the race reasons. Even black people can age like milk. Okay? So just moisturize and use the SPF, whatever number you need. Because, some of y'all translucent, so rack up the numbers on that SPF. You feel me? But moisturize. Damn it, moisturize. Okay, and blend. Fellas, if you're going to be on camera, okay, like this is all natural. You know what I'm saying? This is all natural. This is just how God made me. Okay, I woke up like this. But fellas, if you're going to go on camera like that, blend that mug. Okay, just damn it. Fellas, blend that mug. Oh, here's the other thing too. Y'all need to moisturize too. Some of y'all are aging like milk too, and y'all in your 20s looking like you're 60 years olds. Damn. Some of y'all, I'm 30. It's like, damn, really? Whoo! Really? Yeah. And when we react that way, that's not us being like, I'm so impressed. I thought you were 18 years old. You look so young. No, we are saying, damn, you look old. Moisturize. Watch your face reverse in age. Watch. Just do it. It's not femme, okay? Doesn't make you less of a man to have a good skincare. Okay? Do it. Damn. Okay, I'm done. Once a year, I give you guys a little bit of a reminder, yes, to hydrate too, okay? Guys, you need to drink more water, all right? Fellas especially, okay? But I always remind you guys, moisturize. Dag nabbit. Moisturize. Cocoa butter's good. Shea butter. That shea butter's fire, okay? Yes. Moisturize. And if you are going to go on camera and use makeup, fellas, blend. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
Was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false.
Okay, so the plan that was widely reported, that was basically an Iranian wish list we can all throw out in the trash, but there are still a whole lot of daylight between the two sides here, the United States, Israel, and Iran. So given what we know so far, which is not a whole lot, how do you think negotiations are going to go this weekend?
One thing to consider about a ceasefire is it's not a peace deal. If we had all of this hammered out beforehand and the deal was ready, we wouldn't have to negotiate one. So I think the idea of a ceasefire is to stop shooting long enough that we can go ahead and start beating.
How does his face have? He has a face version of a farmer's tan going on right now. I'm so sorry. He has a farmer's tan on his face. This is the reason why I say blend, everybody. You don't see the farmer's tan. You know what I'm saying? Like the farmer's tan. You take the shirt off and it's clearly like you this has been exposed to the sun, but this has not. No one sees that. Okay. Okay. His face. His farmer tan. Okay. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry, I'm done. Let's hear facts from him. Let's be respectful and hear facts.
You know, the actual plan into shape. There is a lot of room between the two positions. You know, I know the Iranian 10-point plan was wish casting on their part, and they didn't expect a lot of that. But they need to realize that President Trump is not going to cave or compromise in any way on the most important things. No nukes, no missiles, and no funding terror in the region. They're going to agree to those or there will be no deal.
And also, Jim, the Strait of Hormuz is a major issue and really up in the air, with Iran saying they're blocking the strait because of Israel and Hezbollah. There's also this situation with the tolls where Iran is charging tolls for ships to cross. And then President Trump yesterday said that this could ultimately be a joint venture between the U.S. and Iranians. So where do things go with the Strait of Hormuz?
It needs to open one way or another. President Trump, I think, is giving the Iranians a little bit of hope, you know, and say, hey, maybe we'll do a business deal together. That's 100% his way. Whether that stays in the end, I think it would be unpleasant for some people. But if we get to the point where the rest of the important things, the actual dangerous things, are agreed to, then a toll for ships going through there is not the worst thing in the world. I think that'll try to be negotiated away, though. It's not something we want to make as a precedent.
One thing that came out of the press briefing yesterday was that Caroline Leavitt confirmed that Iran had indicated that it would turn over its stocks of enriched uranium. Big deal. What do you think about that?
That's the biggest deal. I mean, they have, you know, near bomb grade uranium, and we can't allow that. That's an intolerable situation. They're somewhere between 10 and 14 days from breakout with that. So we can't allow them to keep that. That was kind of the whole point of this. If they don't agree to give that, then we're going to have a big problem. But I don't see any reason for negotiations to happen unless they have actually agreed to do that. That would be the number one thing. And then everything else after that is a secondary notion. So that would be a tremendous win for the world, and the reason President Trump launched Operation Epic Fury.
Yeah.
I mean, if that is the case, let's be real. We got to see what deal Trump is going to have with Iran. But a lot of things are getting in the way right now because of everything, because they're still fighting each other in the Middle East. But clearly, after this former U.S. Army Special Forces was done cosplaying as Thanos, he hopped onto the show, and because he kind of looks like kind of purple-ish, you know what I'm saying? You don't see Thanos. I see Thanos a little bit. It's like almost like purple, but like not, you know? But after he was done cosplaying as Thanos, he came onto the show and he's saying some good points here, you know, before he goes and dresses up as an Oompa Loompa. He had some good points here. We have to see. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's the makeup. He would have been just fine without it. I can't take him seriously. Okay. But he does have a point. Oh God. I gotta take it off. Okay. It's making me cry. Oh God. Okay, but he has a point. Okay. We'll see what happens here with Trump. It's got me crying, man. I was holding that in. I'm sorry. I was holding that in. But still, I gotta take his face off the screen. I can't do it. It's hard to take him. It's hard to hear what he's saying. But I'm with him 100% on the idea So I'm not trying to be mean. It's his makeup. That was terrible. He obviously did it himself. He obviously did that himself. But the fact that Trump is trying to work out deals on top of trying to ceasefire and trying to do a peace deal, I don't think, do you think that's really going to make things like, okay, we've already talked about the analogy and everything, and clearly Israel's not okay with that, but it does make you wonder, is that going to make everything easier as far as the peace deal goes? Because I truly think that Israel's going to be very upset about Trump trying to work out a deal with Iran to get some money off of the Strait of HORMUZ. I think Israel will be very pissed off about that. I feel like they'll feel betrayed. So the idea of even having a peace deal for the likes of something like this, I don't think it's going to ever happen. I really don't. And it's very much a Trump thing that he would do, just like cosplaying Thanos just said. Very much, okay? Very much a thing that Trump would do. But is this the right time to do something like that? That's the question that I have, okay? I know none of y'all listen to me now. Y'all are just losing your minds about the Oompa Loompa. But he just has to blend, moisturize. That's all I'm saying. Just if you're going to do it, ladies, blend, okay? Get it down there. Get it down there, blend, okay? It doesn't stop at the jawline. It goes beyond. That's all I'm saying, okay? Okay, let's go.
Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire. She served as an intelligence officer in the U.S. Navy Reserve and sits on the Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. Let's start with the talks set to take place on Saturday in Pakistan. What should be the #1 goal for U.S. negotiators going into these talks?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Anna. Going into these talks in Pakistan, which to me is a pretty unlikely venue for peace talks, that are coming out of a war of choice the president launched 40 days ago. We're 40 days into this war. I hope that we will see success for the United States in these talks. But the fact is, we have no idea why the president abandoned diplomacy in the first place. And I'm very concerned that the president has said clearly he believes the 10 points the Iranians have put forward are a, quote, workable basis for these negotiations. As I read these points, Anna, these are absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, they're not.
They don't address the core security concerns, including the crisis that the president has ignited with Iran taking a grip on the Strait of Hormuz and really entering into a place where this has become the ultimate asymmetric weapon against America's economy and the global economy. So
hold on. I want to pull up the 10-point plan again, just to take a quick trip down memory lane. Let's take a look at this again. Okay. This is the 10-point plan that Iran first sent to Trump, that they apparently allegedly threw in the trash. Like they're like, allegedly threw in the trash, but then they're bouncing back and forth. We have a 15-point plan. They have a 10-point plan towards peace. So look at this. Guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again. That they can't guarantee that. They can't guarantee that at all. #2, permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire. Permanent end to the war. I mean, I feel like they could find some sort of agreement to a certain extent, but I don't see, like, I could see a permanent end to this war, right? But you know for a fact, Israel is going to get all up in the fifis and they're going to attack Iran again in the future. Or Iran could attack Israel. You never know. You see what I'm saying? So again, 1 kind of tough. 2 is possible, but 1 very, very tough. Okay? 3, end to Israel strikes in Lebanon. Well, that's not happening anytime soon because Israel is striking Lebanon right now as we speak and continues to do so. That's going to be a little bit of an issue. 4, lifting all U.S. sanctions on Iran. Don't know if that's possible unless Trump sees some sort of financial gain out of that situation. So I don't see that happening anytime soon when it comes to Iran. Okay. 5, end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. All right. Again, you got Israel striking the likes of Lebanon right now as we speak. So I don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon. 6, Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, that's possible. But 7, Iran would impose a $2 million fee per ship transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, Trump sitting there going, well, you can do that unless we get a piece of that pie. So maybe that's what's going on right now. But that's the only part that he saw as interesting so far, because he's clearly talking about that, saying it'll be beautiful. Okay. Number 8, Iran would split fees with Oman or Oman. Okay. 9, Iran would establish rules for safe passage through Hormuz. So in other words, they have control, that they're running this, that this is their B word. This is their snitch. Okay. This is their ish. And what they say goes when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. It is ours. Don't even try to take it over or anything of that sort. We set the ground rules, and those are the rules. There is no bending them. There's no negotiation. What we say goes when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. And then 10, Iran would use Hormuz fees for reconstruction, instead of reparations. And I mean, let's be real. When was the last time America ever paid for any type of reparations? So I don't see Trump having a problem with number 10. Oh, okay. If those fees are going to go back to rebuilding the things that have been destroyed by Israel and Iran, or by Israel and America, then so be it. Go ahead, do it your thing, baby. But this is the 10-point peace plan that they were talking about, that this particular person on this show here is saying is so out of pocket that it may be a long discussion. Let's just say that.
There has got to be a resolution in which we see the Strait of Hormuz reopened, and that we don't sell out the United States of America in the course of doing so. I'd add that we need to see progress on the nuclear program. What is the plan for highly enriched uranium? This was at one point one of the reasons that the president cited for going to war in the first place. And his statements over the last few days have been deeply alarming on this front. It sounds like the president is willing to pay and to sell out the American people and American taxpayers at almost any price. And that is my core set of concerns.
So I'm hearing you say that you think the Strait of Hormuz and the nuclear issues should be priorities going into these talks. The president has already said that the U.S. has met and exceeded all of its military objectives. Defense Secretary Hegseth said just yesterday that Iran's military has been rendered combat ineffective for years to come. I want to lean into your intel experience. How do you see it? Has the U.S. accomplished military goals and wiped out Iran's military for the foreseeable future?
Look, this has been the most significant air campaign in modern history. And unfortunately, what we've seen, we've got the greatest military in the history of the world. They have been deployed in a war of choice without clear objectives and without proper congressional oversight. We haven't had a single public hearing since this war began 40 days ago. The Secretary of Defense has not appeared before Congress. And that's a huge problem, because it's, from where I sit now, it's very difficult to know what is true. We've heard a wide variety of accounts. It's very difficult to know what has actually happened on the ground. But my focus is really that this is a war that never should have been launched in the first place. And we should not see the President of the United States selling out the American people in these negotiations that will take place in Pakistan tomorrow.
And so you have called for lawmakers to return to Washington immediately to vote for another war powers resolution on Iran. We've already seen 6 failed attempts in recent weeks across both chambers, starting with Venezuela in addition to Iran. Again, 6 votes, none have passed. Why should Americans expect this time to be different?
Well, Anna, we're 40 days into this war. The Speaker of the House has only allowed the House of Representatives to be in session and do the people's work for 33 days in this entire calendar year. That should concern every American who believes that they deserve, which is what they do deserve under our Constitution, a Congress that's going to do its job. You know, as I've been here all across the state of New Hampshire, I'm hearing what I know my colleagues around the country are hearing too, which are people who are feeling the pain of this war at the gas pump. They're feeling it at the grocery store. They're feeling it at the pharmacy. We're in the middle of an affordability crisis that is standing in between hardworking people and the American dream. And this war has jacked up costs for people across the board. And it's, I fear, only going to continue to do so, which is why reopening the Strait of Hormuz and getting a grip and getting us back out of this crisis of the president's own creation is such a high priority.
Well, you've made it clear where you stand and where Democrats stand, but it doesn't sound like you necessarily have the Republican support that would be required to really enforce like a war powers resolution to hold this administration accountable in the way that you are suggesting is needed.
Well, what I'd say is here in New Hampshire, I'm hearing, and what I hope I will hear from my colleagues in Congress, which is that they did not vote for this war of choice. They did not vote for a president to launch the war that's hugely costly in American lives and in taxpayer dollars, to threaten to end a civilization. This is not what any person of good faith signed up for or voted for. And if they are representing their constituents, they will vote with us and do their duty under our Constitution.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, thank you very
much. We'll see what happens here, though. Hold on. Let me, I got to grab this super chat here. Hip hop culture. Thank you so much for the love. News was broken. Rescue soldier was the decor. I think it mean the decoy. 100 men jumbo planes was actually them trying to retrieve the uranium. Scientist's bag was found. Huh. Where did you find that, hip hop? Where's that info? I'd love to see that info. If you got it, send it my way, please, and thank you. Where did you get that info? But thank you so much for the super chat. But that's absolutely insane if that's true. That would be insane if that was true. Ryder guy, thank you so much for the love. If Iran is able to steal enriched uranium, then all this will have been for nothing. That's why he originally said he was bombing them. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, right? Part of it is about them getting the uranium, getting the material, stopping them from being able to build nukes, right? That's part of it. And then the other part is regime change, right? So if they're able to enrich uranium, yeah, what's the point? Then what's the point, dagnabbit, right? It's kind of crazy if you ask me. So again, that's very, very strange. And it goes completely against what we were talking about. Let me see, hold on. Hip hop said, please be aware they use wordplay, uranium, and also use the sorry. And also used for medicine and also power plants, the power of the city, not just weapons. Interesting. But what I'm asking is, where did you get that info from? Because I mean, that is a statement to say, oh yeah, the rescuing of that soldier was a decoy, and that whole entire mission was literally to get the uranium, not actually get the actual soldier. Where's that info? You see what I'm saying? Respectfully, where's that info? Because I'd like to know about that too, right? Because because that is quite the statement to say. So if that's true, I'd love to hear about it. Where that at? Where it be? Let me know. But let's continue on. Okay. So MSNBC.
The 2 weeks.
MS Now is saying, according to Chris Matthews, he's saying that he doesn't trust Netanyahu, and I don't think anybody should really trust Netanyahu right now. Let's completely be real here.
Ceasefire between the United States and Iran continues to be tested this morning. Moments ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted on social media that his military will continue to strike Hezbollah with force, precision, and determination. He highlighted strikes in Beirut that killed the personal secretary of Hezbollah's leader. Lebanon, meanwhile, says nearly 200 people were killed and hundreds more wounded just yesterday in one of the deadliest days for the country since the start of the war. Following those deadly attacks, Iran claimed Lebanon was included in the ceasefire agreement and accused the United States of violating the deal, which the White House denied. Also this morning, the status of the Strait of HORMUZ, the crucial waterway and key piece of this deal, remains unclear. Iranian state media yesterday claimed the strait had once again been closed in response to Israel's continued strikes on Lebanon. President Trump then issued a new warning late last night, writing on social media that all U.S. military personnel and assets will remain in the region until, quote, the real agreement reached is fully complied with, adding that if it is not, then attacks will be bigger and stronger than before. A lot of things that are unclear here.
Yeah.
Joining the
Let's take a look at this one more time, because I actually had his Truth Social post, but let's take a look at it here. So all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place or remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. If for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. Very Trumpian thing for him to say there. It was agreed a long time ago, and despite all of the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward, actually, to its next conquest. America is back, in all caps. Now, here's the thing. Military is loading up and resting, looking forward to its next conquest. Like I already said before, what is this next conquest that he's talking about? Is he still saying, like, are we going back to the Middle East again? Are we still fighting there? What is he saying? Are they gearing up for Greenland? What's actually going on here? Does anybody know? Can anybody answer that question real quick? Because that should be a very big concern for all of us. Should it not? What's really going on here? Anyone?
conversation. We have the former host of Hardball, Chris Matthews, the president of Eurasia Group and G0 Media, Ian Bremmer, and Mike Barnacle and Katty Kay are still with us.
Ian Bremmer, the United States went to war with Benjamin Netanyahu. Marco Rubio admitted that's the reason we went to war, that Netanyahu was going, so we felt compelled to go along. It's how we started the war, and right now that's how the war continues, because Benjamin Netanyahu is never going to stop fighting. He's just not. He is committed to a forever war for a lot of reasons that we've already explained here. Talk about how this partnership with Benjamin Netanyahu is going to make Donald Trump's goal of ending this war in the 4 to 6 to 8 week time frame that he originally had planned, make it nearly impossible?
Well, it's not that Israel is continuing to strike Iran directly. With the announcement of the ceasefire, that has stopped, at least for the last 24 hours. But of course, when it comes to Lebanon, it's not that Israel was just continuing the war as planned. It was actually the most significant set of attacks, literally in the hours after Trump announced the ceasefire, by the Israelis on Lebanon, on Hezbollah, in Beirut, and the rest.
The Iranians, I understand it wasn't against Iran, but the Iranians said that the ceasing of attacks in Lebanon was a big part of that plan that both sides agreed to. And Netanyahu decided to launch attacks.
That's right.
After
There's
that, that reports have killed up to 200 people in Lebanon overnight.
That's right. And again, this is an escalation by the Israelis in their war on their front. And the Pakistani prime minister, who was essential to bringing the American, he wants the Iranians to make the next move. And then he wants the United States to say, well, we tried, but we're still in it. Because from Israel's perspective, there's still a lot that they would like to accomplish in Iran that has not yet been taken care of. By the way, this isn't just Israel. The United Arab Emirates, it looks like they were engaged with strikes on Iran, entering the war in the last day. The UAE certainly has not denied it. The Iranians have made announcements around it. There was a big explosion inside Iran, an oil facility, and the Iranians struck back. They're another country, unlike the Saudis, unlike the Qataris. The UAE and Israel both are uncomfortable being left in a position where Iran, the regime is in place, they're strong, they have control over the straits. So there are a lot of players that are involved in this right now that aren't necessarily aligned with the announcement that Trump made.
Let's talk about the straits that you just mentioned, Ian, which is this morning, despite what the White House is saying, that Iran is still controlling which ships go through. A limited number of ships are being allowed to pass. But with this toll, something they've discovered here that they can charge, say, $1 a barrel. If you figure most of those ships carry 2 or 3 million barrels, you can do the math on that. That's a lot of money over the course of a year. American oil executives reportedly have been calling the White House saying, hey, we can't have this. It would destroy our business. And of course, the Gulf states saying the same thing. It would destroy our flow of oil through there. So with this new massive leverage point where Iran says we can disrupt the global economy by controlling the Strait of Hormuz, what would the negotiation be with the United States? I mean, Donald Trump suggested to ABC yesterday that, well, we'll do some kind of revenue sharing with Iran. We'll get a cut of those ships too. Does that make sense to you? What is an acceptable deal to the United States here?
There's no mechanism to make that happen. We're very far from that. There are countries that are prepared to pay it. The Indians, the Pakistanis, they had been negotiating. Some of those ships are going through because they're paying the money. So obviously it makes economic sense for them in an inflated price environment with the Strait disrupted. The French actually have paid money to the Iranians to allow at least one ship through, core ally of the United States. At least they have been before the war. Now, if there is no military plan, doesn't exist to displace the Iranians from this position. And if you wanted a more negative take on the ceasefire, you would say the United States continues to be bringing this third aircraft strike group into the region, the USS Bush. It won't be there until April 15, 16. There are 1,000 more troops going in. CENTCOM has advised the White House that right now with Iranian ballistic missile capabilities and other capabilities that they aren't yet ready to engage in any ground force attacks in the region. So you could easily say Trump is waiting a couple of weeks to allow for those capacities to develop. He doesn't yet have troops in place that he would be able to try to open the strait if he wanted to. And so that those 2 weeks may just be, I'm buying some time and trying to get oil prices down, markets to rally. I don't think that's what's driving him, but that's a reasonable read on the problem of the strait right now.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board has been consistently critical of the Trump administration over the course of this war, out with a new piece titled Trump declares premature victory in Iran. The editorial board writes this. Mr. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance said the ceasefire is conditioned on Iran striking a deal, but it sure sounds like the president just wants the war over. Will Mr. Trump really start bombing again if Iran draws out talks? Given the risk to oil prices, count us skeptical.
This is a very logical, very good question right there. I mean, is he really going to start doing all this crazy stuff? Is he going to just turn back on, you know, a whole civilization is going to die tonight if they don't meet the ceasefire agreements? He says the military is standing back and standing by, basically, right? But think about that. I think we all should pretty much side-eye the situation. Like, yeah, right now, sure, you know, the price of gas is going to drop down just a little bit. It's not a whole lot. It's still high. It's not a whole lot. It's still high. But it could go right back up if one misstep happens within this deal. And yeah, I think he is prematurely saying that, you know, America kicked ass and took names. Same thing with Pete Hegseth, where he's sitting there going like, this is a victory. This is a victory with a capital V. You know what I mean? Like with his war, poetic, haiku type stuff, you know? But I just doubt it.
If the regime behaves as it always has, it will claim to want to reach a deal, but never will. The talks will stretch through 2 weeks, then 3, then months. Iran will bet that Mr. Trump won't resume bombing as the midterm elections approach. The rest of the world and Republicans in Congress will lean on Mr. Trump not to resume the fight. Ooh. The unfortunate truth is that Mr. Trump put himself in this position. His inconsistent rhetoric on the war, claims of victory amid threats of unleashing hell and an end to Iran's civilization, raised global fears and undermined support at home and abroad. The next test for Mr. Trump will be whether he takes his 2-week ceasefire deadline seriously. If he does, and Iran plays its usual games, then he really will have to finish the job. And
these are hard facts, though.
Chris Matthews, there have been arbitrary deadlines throughout the course of President Trump's presidency. It's always 2 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it's going to end up being. But what do you expect to happen at the end of this ceasefire?
Well, I don't think it'll hold. I don't think Israel took it seriously. I don't think it took the whole thing seriously, the whole deal seriously. They continue their battle in Lebanon. And I'm not sure that we're being honest about this, that the press secretary of the president's being honest, that the White House is being honest about whether Lebanon and Israel's attacks on Lebanon weren't part of this deal. I think they're covering for Bibi again. And by the way, I'm still overwhelmed by the New York Times coverage. Not I think the Journal's been great, but the New York Times yesterday's spread, the 3-page spread about how this whole thing started and the role that played by the vice president opposing the whole thing, the role played by the Secretary of State not buying the whole argument of regime change. And then Trump said he didn't think the Strait of Hormuz mattered because there'd be a regime change in the meantime, and therefore we won't have to deal with that regime. This is crazy. It's all conditional. It's not based on fact. The president, he went down hook, line, and sinker, just like the French and the British did back in '56 with Israel. They went along with the Suez campaign against NATO. They did it on their own. And Eisenhower, thank God we had a president like Eisenhower. He just blew the whistle on that and said, no more war. It's over. You guys didn't operate through NATO, and now you're not going to get us backing you now. And just like NATO is saying today, we're not going to back you. We didn't start this stupid war. You did. You did it on your own, Mr. Big Shot. And now you're Mr. Big Shot along with your new best friend, Bibi Netanyahu. I don't trust Netanyahu in this thing one bit. I think he wants to keep this war on as long as he wants to stay out of jail, and that's a long time. And I really have a real problem with Bibi Netanyahu in this, and Trump, who is saying terrible things about civilizations being destroyed and war crimes, basically laying it out beforehand. I'm going to commit a war crime.
Okay, Chris, where does this leave Democrats? It's a question I keep getting asked. Where are the voices of the Democrats? Where is the person around whom Democrats can rally? We keep seeing them. They did it this week again. Wisconsin, Georgia, we keep seeing them do well in local state elections. But there doesn't seem to be any sense of unity of voice or purpose or figurehead. Maybe that's just not possible. Maybe that's not possible until the primaries.
Did you get up last Sunday morning, 2 weeks ago? Chris Christie, who's the best critic of this whole operation, he said the Democrats are going to win big in November if they stay out of sight. He said if they go to Turks and Caicos, that's the smart move, the Democrats. Don't describe your policies. Don't say what you're going to do about the border because you're not going to do anything about it. And you blew it for 4 years under Biden. So just take it, enjoy the pattern of voting has been 20 to 30 points, way ahead of the spread. The Democrats have been beating the spread. They did it again the other day. They did it in Wisconsin and Georgia. I mean, it's unbelievable they're winning. They're winning in places they should never win in because nobody's thinking about the Democrats. They're thinking about how they're mad at Trump and his party. And so they just benefit from the pattern. The pattern voting is so clearly in their direction that Ken Martin, the chairman of the Democratic Party, has refused to release the autopsy on 24 and why they lost. Tell me what it's about. The Hispanics won't like it because they might say, we lost it over the border issue. The Jewish people may say we don't like it because younger voters are not supporting Israel anymore. There's all kinds of reasons they want to keep it secret, but it's only your secret, Democrats, because everybody else knows why. You're hiding it.
Ian, is it fair to assess what's happened thus far in Iran?
I mean, he said what he said. He most definitely said what he said. And he's got hard points. Okay. He's definitely got a good point right there.
As a military success for the United States, such a success that it would give any nation in the world pause before they thought about fooling around with the American military. And yet, on the other hand, a disastrous strategic failure.
Largely, yes. I mean, a couple of sort of hesitations there. First, the Iranians have much more missile capability than the Americans had assumed. They've got longer range missiles. They also have hypersonics that have been able to avoid American defenses. That's how you hit that base in Riyadh. That's how you hit the LNG facility in Qatar. Even after the Iranians said they were going to do the latter, hardened facility. So that's a bit of a problem. The Iranians have also been able to dig out their ballistic missile stockpiles after they've been hit, dig out some of the launch pads in less than 24 hours. So that resilience for a comparatively, sort of small military is a bit problematic. But sure, if you're China and you've never fought a naval war and, you've got all sorts of corruption internally, you're not looking at what the Americans are doing militarily in Iran and Venezuela and say, I can't wait to do Taiwan right now. No, absolutely not. But what you do see is that America's political capacity to tolerate pain, both from the trade war with the Chinese and their response with critical minerals, and now their capacity to tolerate the straits being shut down from a comparatively small Iran is really limited. The Americans have an incredible military and a glass jaw. And you don't want American adversaries or even allies feeling that way about this country, that the Americans can't take a punch. That's a very, very difficult conclusion that I think many people will draw from how President Trump has handled this war and how he's handled his power in the last year.
Yeah, we got more. But yeah, this is becoming an absolute mess. I think we can all agree on that right now. Wait, hold on. Yeah, they're saying that their peace talks, Iran's proposal for their peace bullet points was basically written out by like ChatGPT. I mean, it's crazy the things people are saying right now. It is absolutely crazy. Hold on one second. Where did it go? I just had something. Now it's gone. Where did it go? There it is. Marjorie Taylor Greene had some things to say about all this recently too. So we got to take a look at this. Let's take a look at this.
Called for the president to be removed from office under the 25th Amendment to the Constitution after that threat that he made about destroying the whole civilization of Iran. The president has a long history of shocking and unprecedented social media posts. Why was this the final straw for you?
Because it's absolute madness. How can any person that is mentally stable call for an entire civilization of people to be murdered, to be wiped out, to never come back again? That's what the president called for. And that shows that there's serious instability in his thinking, that he would, not only would he even say that in a private room, perhaps with his advisors, but actually go to his megaphone, his Truth Social, and post that for the entire country and the entire world. And it's unreal. This should never be tolerated. I know it's a very difficult, hard stretch to see it actually coming through, but the conversation needs to be had, and he's out of control. And people within the administration need to step up, take responsibility, and rein this in.
How are they going to rein it in? That's the question, right? I mean, how? Because right now, I mean, we've heard all these people, begging for some sort of 25th Amendment and all that. I mean, yeah, exactly floating. Exactly floating, Lotus. Yeah. What the hell's Congress doing? Sure, there's been articles of impeachment that have already been filed. A lot of Democrats are backing it, for sure, because they didn't like how unhinged he just went, basically saying, threatening, which is a war crime, threatening the annihilation of an entire civilization of people. Now, I get it. Some people sit there and run off semantics and go, no, that's not what he meant. He just meant their way of life. That is also a threat on the general human conditions that every person deserves to have, which is shelter, clean water, etc., power, etc. You're destroying everything. He said those things. That is the bed that he made. He made those mistakes. Ain't nothing changed on that. But let's take a look at this. Americans are revealing their verdict on his ceasefire. And apparently they're very concerned, as we all should be. Okay? Yes, Gemini, absolutely. A right to mother, love, and live. He was threatening their livelihood. That is a problem. Sure, we can sit there and move the goalposts as best as we can and basically say, oh, he said civilization, but he didn't really mean their livelihood. No, he did. He did. He may not have said he's going to just take out the whole, all these people, innocent lives, but by eradicating their ability for clean water and their livelihood, that's also destroying their lives. That's also killing them too. So again, he just, I don't know what the F's going on, man. It's dumb. And he shouldn't have been saying that, right? Americans are cautiously embracing Trump's fragile ceasefire with Iran, but few are convinced it will hold. Yeah, I don't think any of us think it's going to hold at all. It's not holding right now. The ceasefire ceases to exist. Okay, ceased to exist. But anyway, after threatening to destroy an entire civilization, the president announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, as further diplomatic talks with the regime are expected to take place at a summit in Pakistan on Friday. So and of course they say J.D. Vance is expected to attend this, but now they're saying he may not be there in person because of security issues and security risks. And that's probably the smartest thing they've done so far in this entire freaking war, is to not have him go there in person, because he will become a hostage. I will say that. Okay. Or they will take him out. Just saying. Moving on. According to the latest poll, I guess they did, American voters were relieved that the president decided to take the off-ramp instead of escalating the war. Yes, I think we all in unison agreed with that. I think the entire country, if not the entire world, all took a breath. We all exhaled, okay? And no, we ain't talking about Angela Bassett. We all finally got to exhale, right? Real talk. But other than that, we still don't know if we should be clutching our pearls here very, very soon. So the survey found that 33% of voters view the deal as a good outcome for the United States, compared to 18% who see it as a bad one. Another 28% of respondents said they feel neutral about the agreement, while 20% remain unsure, underscoring the public's mixed but measured reaction. The dominant emotional response to the ceasefire is, quote unquote, relieved. So everybody's relieved. Absolutely. According to survey data visualized in a word cloud that captures the mood of a war-weary electorate. Now, here's the thing. America's a sense of relief, however, is tempered by skepticism surrounding the deal's long-term durability. Only 1 in 4 Americans believe the ceasefire will probably or definitely hold, with just 7% expressing full confidence it will last, according to this particular poll. A majority, 54%, say the agreement will either probably or definitely collapse, signaling widespread doubt about Iran's intentions and the strength of the terms. I think we are all, most of us in the chat, are in the 54 percentile. Because let's be real. They said, we're going to do a ceasefire, and then Iran puts out a thing like, we won. Criminal America is running away with their tails between their legs, terrified. We are resilient. We are forever triumphant. As the Iranian people, we shall rise and be better. That's basically what they've been saying. Am I right or am I right? So I really don't think that this ceasefire is going to stick. But again, I've been wrong a million times before. Like, I didn't think that we were going to come to some sort of agreement, to some sort of ceasefire. And yes, Floating Lotus, yes, they did say that. I mean, they didn't say exactly verbatim what I said, but yes, they did say that. Okay, there was a lengthy statement that was made, and they basically said, and it was stated on Iranian state TV as well. They basically said, as soon as this ceasefire was announced, they put out a statement basically saying that America is weak and they're resilient and they're strong and blah, 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 blah. So again, you got Iranian people, the Iranian regime, or a part of the Iranian regime saying one thing while America is out here going, no, we won. We won. You see what I'm saying? This feels like a Biden-Trump election all over again. In a way. You see what I'm saying? It was stolen from me. You sure about that? So STRAIT, through which nearly a quarter of the world's oil passes, had been open and freely accessible to energy companies before Trump launched his war. Some 41% of Americans say that the outcome is bad overall, compared to 19% who view it as good, while 24% are neutral and 16% are unsure. Despite those concerns, 43% of voters say the U.S. should accept the fee to preserve the ceasefire, while 32% oppose it and 25% remain undecided. The Iranians put forward a 10-point ceasefire plan, the one that we just talked about, that Trump called a workable basis on which to negotiate. The plan allows Iran to continue controlling the strait, although Tehran said countries that did not threaten them militarily would be allowed to pass. So their allies are allowed to pass, but other ones, like, I don't know, any other ones that are opposed to them is probably going to have to drop $2 million just to walk in, just to be able to sail through that mug. So again, not good. President Trump's rising unfavorability appears to have been driven in part by surging gas prices after the Strait closure, with the national average climbing to $4.10 per gallon. And that is not good. But again, people are still upset. And sure, they're taking a sigh of relief because, of course, this is affecting their pockets. This is affecting all Americans' pockets. Gas is not getting any cheaper. And sure, it may drop down, but it's still not cheap. It's still not below $3, which he was boasting and bragging about in the very beginning of his term, of this second term. But we're back to Biden gas prices now. We're back there. All because of the decisions that he made to get into this fight in the Middle East. So again, not good. I think we can all agree on that. Now, just real quick, I just wanted to point this out because I think this is important. Diddy, we haven't talked about Diddy in a minute. You know, Diddy's back in court right now because he is in the middle of trying to appeal his sentencing, y'all. Let's take a listen to this real quick.
We're hearing today in the Sean Diddy Combs case as his lawyers appeal his conviction on prostitution-related charges.
Christina Fan joins us live from outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Christina?
Chris and Mary, good morning. As of now, Sean Diddy Combs is set to be released in April of 2028. Later on this morning, his defense attorneys will be arguing in front of a panel of federal appeals judges, arguing that his conviction on prostitution-related charges should be reversed, or at the very least, his sentence should be shortened. In court filings, Combs' lawyers compared their client's filming of sexual encounters between his girlfriends and male sex workers to amateur pornography and claim it is protected under the First Amendment. They also argue his sentencing was way too harsh. Last year, a jury acquitted Combs on the most serious charges of RICO conspiracy and sex trafficking, but his attorneys say the trial judge imposed a 50-month sentence driven by conduct the jury rejected, treating Combs as if coercion and trafficking had already been proven. Prosecutors, of course, oppose the argument, saying that Combs' recordings do not make his case a free speech issue and say that the sentence was proper.
So now you got him trying to, he's trying to get off. Yeah. He's trying to get off. So he's in court right now trying to say, hey, you know, the baby oil and the Astroglide and all that stuff. Come on, man. You know, sure, I was making amateur adult films. That's all I was doing. That's all I was doing. Sure, we had men in there. Sure, it was multiple hours of spilled vanilla milkshakes all over her body. But that's all I did, boss. So the sentencing's kind of harsh, homie. So stop it. Stop it, right? Well, we'll see what happens here, because that is a very interesting claim, a very interesting what's the word? Request to basically say, hey, can you lessen my sentencing, please? That would be really great.
Happening today, Sean Diddy Combs is set to appear in court to appeal his conviction. The music mogul is currently serving a 50-month prison sentence in New Jersey for prostitution-related charges. News Nation senior story editor Paula Froelich is here with all the scoop. Paula, his attorneys say his conviction should be reversed or at least be freed and resentenced to less time. What are the chances a judge agrees to that?
just might happen, actually. So his lawyers are saying that the original judge was overly harsh in sentencing. So you'll remember
I don't
when
think it
he was
was.
sentenced for.
I'm gonna be completely real. Just so you know, this is not a harsh sentencing. Not for all the things that we heard. Just saying that out loud. For all the things that we heard about what Cassie Ventura went through, what the Jane Doe went through, 50 Cent's ex-wife, okay, or his baby mama, what she went through, what some of these other male S workers went through. This is not harsh at all. Nah, bruh. You wrong with this one. You finish it out, okay? He did some crazy stuff. And for what Cassie Ventura endured, period. And also Jane Doe. Okay, I know that's up for argument. I know some people are like, she provoked, she started that stuff. She wanted that stuff to happen, so she had a story to tell. I don't know about all that, but nonetheless, if we just lean solely on what Cassie Ventura went through, yeah, nah. This is light work in comparison to what I think he should have gotten, in my personal opinion. Yes, I know people are out there in the streets, dancing in the streets, going, yeah, lathering themselves with baby oil in celebration to him only getting a few years, basically. But in my personal opinion, nah, he was wrong. He was devilish. He did all kinds of stuff, and he got away with a lot. And he got away with this too, in my personal opinion. He should have gotten more. He should have gotten much worse.
The prostitution charges, unfortunately, he was given a very long term because the judge had looked at the other charges and the other evidence in the acquittal of racketeering and sex trafficking. And the judge said he wanted to send a message to perpetrators and victims alike that violence against women will not be tolerated. And so he was sentenced for 4 years. Now, listen, the date has already moved. He was supposed to have been originally released in June of 2028, then May. Now it is April.
Why
of
is that
2028.
fluctuating? Paula, any insights as to why that's fluctuating? I would have thought that would have been set in stone.
You do also get time off for good behavior, but also it's because he spent so much time in jail before. So before leading up to the trial. So they are giving him time served. They're giving him good behavior.
What are, victims and their families saying about this? What's been the response to today's hearing and the potential of a release?
I think a lot of people are terrified, frankly. I mean, he was quite violent towards Cassie. He was quite violent towards a lot of the other women. And people are worried about retribution because he does have a history of intimidation.
And just for anybody who needs a reminder, accused of racketeering, 2 sex trafficking counts, 2 counts of transportation for prostitution as well. Currently serving 4 years. Paula, another headline I want to follow up with you.
Yeah, this again, like I said, I think he should have gotten much longer. That's just me personally. I don't think he, in this situation, I don't think he, I think because of his financial privilege and because of his name, and I think because of some tampering with witnesses and all that, because there were other witnesses that were supposed to come out. Because of that, I think, yeah, he got off. And I don't mean that in the baby oil kind of way. Okay, but here's some an update in regards to the hearing right now as we speak. Arguments have officially ended in his appeal. And the judge or the judges will now begin their decision-making process. During the hearing, Diddy's lawyers mentioned Cassie Ventura's alleged substance use, which they were not allowed to present during the federal trial. They also mentioned a quote-unquote hotel night, another term for freak-offs that Diddy enjoyed with Jane Doe, which wasn't connected to any threat. So in other words, they're like, well, she was cool with this. So therefore, that's why that's why this whole thing's going down. Right. Interesting. Right. The lawyers shared their hope for an expedited ruling on the part of the judges, though it's unclear how long it will take them to decide. So obviously, if there's a new update and he gets free, of course, there will be some sort of conversation and an update in regards to that. But I did want to share that with y'all before we continue on with more info and more discussions. Because again, I mean, what say you? Do you agree? Do you think that he should be free right now? Do you think what he did is not that big of a deal? It's just a little, it's grown folks being grown folks and being freaky leaks. And don't get me wrong, we all freaky to a certain extent. Okay. The hibbity dibbity, the sideways samba is already freaky to begin with. Think about that. It's already an act of freakiness to begin with. But then you got cameras, you FaceTiming it while he's in the other room doing work, and he's watching through FaceTime. His girlfriend's getting ran through with baby oil and all kinds of substances for hours on end while he's still conducting business as well is absolutely insane. And the vegetable soup and the mother-loving vegetable soup that he would eat while he was watching his lady get ran through by a bunch of male S workers is just insane to me. And they would go and they would take breaks in between the hibbity dibbities, okay, but in between the boinky boinks, little food breaks, little lunch breaks, let her hydrate, etc. Reapply that baby oil and that Astroglide, and then he would slurp up the spilled vanilla milkshakes from the man's. I'm just saying, I drink your milkshake, I drink it up. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. That's freaky. There's no law breaking of those things. The male S workers is definitely breaking the law, depending on what state he was in. And a lot of the times he was in New York. So that and prostitution is illegal. So he was breaking the law on that for sure. But when it comes to, the other freakiness that's going on behind closed doors, there's nothing illegal about that unless those girls were held against their will, right? And of course, they tried to say that, it was vegetable soup. It is nasty work, Ryan. Come on, man. He would go and get a earwand or whatever the hell, earwax, whatever that it's like a high class, very expensive supermarket. Erewhon. Okay, he would get Erewhon veggie soup. That's what he would have a craving for. He would have a hankering for veggie soup whilst his girl's getting drilled. I don't get it. Erewhon. Okay? He's literally eating vegetable soup and she's getting a break off. She about, while these guys are breaking her off. Okay? He's getting expensive ass Erewhon vegetable soup whilst he's watching his girl over and over and over and over. Drill, baby, drill. Exactly. Drill, baby, drill. I love it when they drill, baby, drill. Love the sound of it. Love the sound of drill, baby, drill. That's all you were hearing. And they were making, videos on that. I'm just saying, that's what they were doing. Expensive ass soup, baby oil, Astroglide, okay? Everything smelling like booty holes and halitosis, okay? And that's what was going on at these freak-offs. Now, there's no law broken on things smelling like booty holes and halitosis, okay? And vegetable soup, all right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, because we all a little freaky, all right? But then he had to bring in the S workers, You see what I'm saying? And then allegedly held some of these girls against their will. That's a massive problem. So yeah, you know, and he put his hands on them too. If they decided not to be a part of it, he would put his hands on them too. You see what I'm saying? That's not good. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of issues, okay? Okay? Nasty, okay? And I get it. Sideways Samba, the hibbity-dibbity is nasty already. It's nasty, all right? But we love that kind of nasty. But then you add all those other elements, it's gross, okay? It's gross. But let's continue on. We got to get back over from the Diddy world. We got to get back into politics real quick, okay? Now we got something else interesting from Brian Allen on X. He's saying this major revelation. Tucker Carlson just reported something the Pentagon won't discuss publicly. IDF officers maintain permanent offices inside the Pentagon? What? And inside the CIA? Permanent. Tucker asked the question out loud that Washington won't answer. Who is actually running this? What? What's up with Tucker Carlson lately, man? He been completely off the reservation lately. You know, the MAGA reservation. Okay, let's take a look at this.
Without a true meritocracy, can you have excellence? But that's the opposite of what we have. No one is ever punished. No one is ever criticized. No one ever takes the fall. No leader is ever humiliated. Only the people beneath him who carried out his orders. That's the definition of a perverse system that produces, not surprisingly, perverse results like the ones we're experiencing now. So that's the next thing we need to do. Be honest about how Iran, this primitive country, just humiliated us. That's not anti-American, that's pro-American. We love our country enough to want to know, and we need to know. And the final thing we need to learn from this particularly ugly experience is that you have to have leaders who care about you.
Yo. What is going on with Tucker Carlson lately? No, real talk. What's going on? Like, what has been happening lately? It feels like we're in like the upside down, but it's also like kind of a weird upside down moment where sometimes where you're like, okay, word, okay. Like it's kind of like he woke up, and I don't mean stay woke. No. I'm not talking about that because I know as soon as I say he woke up, everyone's like, oh, that wokeism stuff. Stop with that wokeism, Pascal. No. Chill. Time out. I'm not talking about that. It just seems like he just woke up. That he's been under the veil of MAGA has been, up in his face, and suddenly out of nowhere, he just ripped it off, and he's like, oh my God, there's so many colors. There's so much life around here, even though he still is he is Tucker Carlson. He is still Tucker Carlson, but he's seen more than just white now. His color palette has opened up. He's seeing other colors. Still a lot of white, but he's still, starting to see he's acknowledging those other colors do exist. That's not making him woke. It's just like he's just waking up. And he's like, wow, there's so many colors to this rainbow. Whoa. It's like the guy who saw the triple rainbow. Remember that viral video of the guy who saw the triple rainbow and he's like crying because he's like, it's so beautiful. And he sounds like he's high as hell, but he's like, oh my God, triple rainbow. He's like, whoa. Because there's 3 rainbows all in one spot, all underneath each other. It's kind of like that with him. He's like, whoa, we're finally seeing more and more going on in the world. This is absolutely insane. What is really going on here? Let me play this one more time for you guys.
Without a true meritocracy, can you have excellence? But that's the opposite of what we have. No one is ever punished. No one is ever criticized. No one ever takes the fall. No leader is ever humiliated. Only the people beneath him who carried out his orders. That's the definition of a perverse system that produces, not surprisingly, perverse results like the ones we're experiencing now. So that's the next thing we need to do. Be honest about how Iran, this primitive country, just humiliated us. That's not anti-American, that's pro-American. We love our country enough to want to know, and we need to know. And the final thing we need to learn from this particularly ugly experience is that you have to have leaders who care about you.
And that is absolutely 110% true. We definitely need that. Okay. And yes, this is it, like I said, this is it is a wild turn of events to see the likes of someone like the Candace Owenses and the Tucker Carlsons that are out there suddenly saying stuff like this. Like, whoa, it's a surprise. It's a surprise to me. Okay. I will definitely say that. But let us continue on. Hold on. Hold on one second. Because yeah, this is nuts. I might have to pull up a little bit more of this Tucker Carlson conversation. But let's take a look at this. This is also coming from, hold on. This is coming from Newsmax. And I don't look at Newsmax like ever, but we need to hear about this. Let's see what's going on here real quick. Okay.
Let's take you live now to Chief Washington Correspondent James Rosen with more on the weekend's negotiations. And I believe those are happening in Islamabad, right, James?
That's right. Good morning, Edie. Much remains unresolved, as we have been reporting, in this ceasefire announced between the U.S. and Israel on the one side and the Iranian regime on the other, not least whether Tehran is making good on its pledge to reopen the Strait of HORMUZ, through which, in ordinary times, 1/5 of the world's oil supply transits. In her briefing yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt claimed Iranian reports of continued restrictions on that commerce were lies.
We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Vice President Vance following a campaign stop in Budapest on behalf of embattled Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban also sounded cautiously optimistic about the strait, but he coupled that sentiment with a warning.
We actually think that we are seeing signs that the straits is starting to reopen. I think you guys have probably seen oil prices have come down. So I think the oil markets, the gas markets are seeing the same thing. But the president's very, very clear. The deal is a ceasefire, a negotiation. That's what we give. And what they give is the straits are going to be reopened. If we don't see that happening, the president is not going to abide by our terms if the Iranians are not abiding by their terms.
Another point of fierce contention, as we have been reporting, those ongoing Israeli airstrikes in Beirut, Lebanon, targeting sites linked to Hezbollah, the Iran-backed terror group. Iran's leaders call it a massacre of civilians and a violation of the ceasefire, which they say was supposed to include Lebanese territory.
I actually think that is a reasonable misunderstanding, but neither us nor the Israelis said that was going to be part of the ceasefire. Again, we're working with people to try to get through some of these things, but it's really fundamentally, we're on the right track. We got a lot more to do. We got a lot more that the Iranians are going to have to accept as part of this negotiation, but I think we've got a strong hand and we're going to play it well.
Vice President Vance said he has taken and placed a lot of phone calls on the Iran crisis in recent days, and the White House has confirmed, Sean and Edie, that the vice president will lead the U.S. negotiating team when talks commence in earnest, possibly as soon as tomorrow in Islamabad. Back to you guys.
Hold on, because we got some updates on the whole NATO situation as well. Yeah, so they're basically here it is. The White House is basically saying open the Strait of Hormuz. But here's the thing, though. I mean, so then what's going to happen if they don't? Are we back? Do we resume? Do we resume do we resume, do we hit the continuation button or, like game on, you know what I mean? Are we just back to that all over again? What exactly is going on here? Can we have some clarification on that? That would be fantastic, right?
Let's begin with this fragile ceasefire.
Yes, in the Middle East, Iran is accusing the U.S. and Israel of violating the agreement following deadly Israeli strikes in Lebanon targeting Hezbollah. Now, this comes ahead of this weekend's peace talks between the U.S., and Iran and Pakistan. Speaking in Hungary yesterday, Vice
might be
President
right,
J.D. Vance
Steph.
downplayed what he called the, quote, choppiness around the ceasefire.
Ceasefires
Oh, dear
are
Lord.
always messy. And
I'm
these
skipping
talks
ahead.
continue,
Oh my
I
God.
think.
They keep on talking about the same, like it's his quote all and all over and over and over again. And then you got some updates with NATO, which we got to talk about here. And I'm going to talk about that here with you guys in just a second. Let me just play a little bit of this.
I think whether it comes to the president's rhetoric or indeed the rhetoric coming out of Tehran, there's very vested interests on both sides to make these talks happen, to try to achieve some sort of path forward and indeed an end to this war, which was in its 6th week and has caused so much damage, not just in Iran, but indeed all across the region, including here in the Gulf where I am. Gulf leaders, of course, also vested in these talks as well. They've seen their economies so badly damaged after so many weeks of fighting. Of course, the Strait of HORMUZ remains a very key sticking point. This narrow, tiny waterway in which Iran is on one side and the Gulf nation of Oman is on the other. That is where 20% of the world's fuel goes through. Not just fuel, but also components for fertilizer, which means the global food supply is impacted by all of this. And so there are so many factors at play here. There's so many factors that could destabilize and derail these talks, including continued Israeli strikes inside of Lebanon, which of course has really angered the Iranians. But again, I think at this stage, there are still too many vested interests to make these talks work. And so for now, they are still scheduled for Saturday in the Pakistani capital, Islam.
Yeah, we'll see what about that. But hold on, guys. I'm trying to pull up a few things here. So he's like, open up the strait. Okay, then if they don't, what are you gonna do? What's you gonna do? Because again, right now, I don't know about this, but here's something that's interesting. NATO, the NATO chief, Mark Rutte, apparently is backing Trump and says allies were slow to say the least to support U.S. in Iran, but insists they are now doing everything he asks. You want to know why? Because they're absolutely terrified to not have that kind of protection and not have somebody as big and as strong as America a part of NATO. You already know that. You already know that. We already know this part, okay? Let's say the quiet part out loud, all right? We have a very, very strong military. We are not to be messed with. That's why a lot of these countries fear us, because we do not play. That is true. That is one thing I will say out loud. We have a strong ass military, and y'all know it. You know it. I know it. We don't play, okay? But at the same time, if we were to leave NATO, this would be very bad news for all the other countries that are a part of NATO. This would be bad. Not having us as their backup plan or as their crutch for help, if anything was to go bad, anything was to go wrong, it would be a bad move for NATO to turn their back on the likes of America. It was a bad move, and I get it. I get why they did it, but it wasn't great because you got someone like Trump who got in his feelings and is sitting there going like, we're going to leave then. We're out. We don't need you. We can take care of our own. We can take care of our own damn selves. We don't need you. You need us more than we need you. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Suddenly now you got NATO chief Mark Rutte. Hopefully I'm saying his last name right. He's now sitting there going, yeah, NATO was wrong. And now whatever he wants to do. Now they're going, Daddy Trump, come on back, Daddy. Come on back, Daddy Trump. We need you back, Daddy. Yeah. NATO can't afford for America to just dipset like that. To leave. Sorry. For my white viewers, to leave. Dipset means to bounce, to leave. Okay. They can't afford that to happen. It would be bad for them. And yeah, we do need NATO to a certain extent, but you know, the way that Trump sees it, he's like, we don't need you. You made that abundantly clear. You made it abundantly clear. When we asked for your help with the George Straits, the Strait of Hormuz, okay? When we asked for you to help us with that hummus, what happened? That Strait of Vermouths, what happened? Y'all didn't show up. So we've been out here fighting for ourselves. So clearly, if you're acting like when we need you, when this is the time when we should be enacting and you know, using NATO, right? And if you ain't going to help us with the Strait of Vermouths, okay, then you clearly say you don't need us, so we don't need you. And now they're like, oh no, we were wrong. No, we do need you. Hold up now. Hold up. You were right. I was wrong. You were right. Now what you need? And you know, that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening. So NATO chief said on Thursday that member countries are doing everything President Trump had requested to strengthen the military alliance, even if some were initially a bit slow to provide support to the United States amid its war with Iran. Now, here's the thing. If this ceasefire ceases to exist, let me just say this really quick. It'll be very interesting to see how they handle. It'll be interesting to see if Trump turns around and goes, okay, NATO, come in here now. I need your help. It'll be interesting to see what they do at that particular moment. It'll be interesting. Speaking in Washington, Root said, when it came time to provide the logistical and other support the U.S. needed in Iran, some allies were a bit slow. They weren't even a bit slow. They didn't move. There's a difference. They were immovable. They did not move. They weren't slow. He's just saying this to save face, okay? To say the least. That's what he says, okay? That they were a bit slow to say the least. In fairness, they were also a bit surprised. Yeah, because remember, Trump decided to do this on his own merit. He didn't ask Congress. He didn't have a conversation with people in Congress. He did all of this flying under the radar behind the government's back. To maintain the element of a surprise for the initial strikes, President Trump opted not to inform allies ahead of time, which was probably a bad idea. But what I see when I look across Europe today is allies providing a massive amount of support. Nearly without exception, allies are doing everything the U.S. is asking. They have heard and are responding to Trump's requests. So the NATO chief said he understands Trump's disappointment with NATO and that he held frank and candid discussions with the president. As for a summary of his discussions with Trump, and the NATO chief said, as they would say in diplomatic circles, these conversations were frank and open, candid. But that's good. The president, myself, we like each other. We've been good friends for many years now, and I'd rather have the conversation on the table. I sensed his disappointment about the fact that he felt that too many allies were not with him. So the NATO chief's comments came after a meeting with Trump today, or on Wednesday, I'm sorry. He has briefed some capitals that Trump wants concrete commitments, okay, within the next few days for help securing the Strait of Hormuz. So here's the thing. Remember, securing the Strait of Hormuz, needing help to secure the Strait of Hormuz, that conversation, this sentence shouldn't even exist right now, because that was supposed to be part of the ceasefire deal, right? Wasn't that supposed to be part of the ceasefire deal? So Trump's saying out loud to NATO, to his allies, oh, by the way, Iran's not opening up their Strait of Hormuz. It's shut. It is shut. It is a stalemate. Hormuz Strait is most definitely a stalemate right now, and I'm going to need you guys in help to reopen and securing the Strait of Hormuz. let's be real. This would have been no issue. This would have been no issue whatsoever if this ceasefire actually existed, but it doesn't. Trump had earlier today issued an ultimatum to NATO, calling for a concrete commitment to send warships or other military capabilities to the Middle East. Okay. Concrete commitment to send warships or other military capabilities to the Middle East. Why? Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Why would he need that type of commitment from NATO right now if we're already in a ceasefire? If we're already talking peace talks. Now, I get it. He could have that in his back pocket just in case ish hits the fan, so on and so forth. But if you really think about it, make it make sense. Why would he suddenly be like, okay, NATO, I need you to help me secure the Strait of Hormuz when there's a ceasefire happening? And now, of course, the NATO chief is sitting there going like, we don't want to lose our alliance with America. So now it's kind of like they're between a rock and a hard place after this meeting. And they're like, oh, no. We'll do whatever you ask now. Interesting, right? The defense bloc risks losing American support for good if it does not meet Trump's demands. Trump reportedly told the NATO chief, that he can no longer support the statements of support from his NATO allies, instead requiring material action to be taken. So writing on Truth Social, Trump said, none of these people, including our own very disappointing NATO, understood anything unless they have pressure placed upon them. During his speech, NATO chief heaped praise on Trump as he admitted Europe must step up its spending on the alliance. He said, we must applaud Trump for his bold leadership and vision. What world do we live in now? You realize, like, what bold leadership is this? So, okay, the NATO chief described a mindset shift in Europe, which he claimed was evidenced by the UK leading a coalition of countries to help open the Strait of Hormuz. He also admitted it is a quote unquote period of profound change in the transatlantic alliance. From that, there will be no going back, and nor should there be. He also promised NATO will not be, quote unquote, unhealthily reliant on the U.S., promising America will have allies that are capable and ready, willing, and able to defend NATO's security. He said it will build a stronger NATO with members moving quickly to secure the budget and strengthen their armed forces. Even with this progress, it is clear we will need more, he said. So his promise comes after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday took a swipe at America's European allies for their refusal to assist in its fight against Iran. So he was speaking at the Pentagon press briefing following the announcement of a 2-week ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Now, again, the fact that you got the likes of NATO chief Mark Rutte basically saying like, oh, thank you, Trump, for being so bold, and your leadership, your unwavering leadership is something else. And we will do whatever you say now, Trump. Yeah, they're doing that because they're terrified out of their minds. They're scared because, again, we know what America has to offer. We know what America has. America is strong. That is true. Okay. And you don't want to get on the bad side of America. That is for sure. But it's interesting how much they've had such a quick change of heart, if you notice. A massive quick change of heart. Let's take a look at this. This is about NATO as well. Let's take a look.
Trump calling out NATO after meeting with Secretary General Mark Rutte yesterday, saying, quote, NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice.
The head of NATO responding to the president's disappointment in this way. Watch.
He is clearly disappointed with many NATO allies, and I can see his point. But at the same time, I was also able to point to the fact that the large majority of European nations has been helpful with basing, with logistics, with overflights, with making sure that they live up to the commitments.
Joining us now to react is the host of My View, Laura Trump. Laura, good morning to you. So the president's still clearly disappointed with NATO after his discussions with the Secretary General. How do you view this issue and how the U.S. should treat the alliance moving forward?
Well, listen, Carly, I think every American has been shocked and highly disappointed by the lack of support we've gotten from NATO. Look, the whole point of NATO was a joint alliance to stabilize the world. And then you have this moment, arguably the moment of our time, when that became incredibly important. It's not just to America's benefit, but the benefit of the entire world to ensure that Iran does not nuclearize itself and have the ability to develop and house a nuclear weapon. I would argue that it may be even more important for the Europeans to want that to happen. And yet when that moment came, they were nowhere to be found. When President Trump said, we need your assistance to our allies in NATO to open up the Strait of Hormuz, they were nowhere to be found. You have, countries like Italy and Spain who weren't just burying their heads in the sand, but seeming to actively, not allow us, restricting use of certain military bases in this very moment when it became very important. That's very frustrating. You couple that with the fact that, of course, 2/3 of NATO's spending, or roughly around there, is paid by the United States of America. We pay a disproportionate amount of the money. The president's talked about it for so long. And yes, he is incredibly frustrated. As he said, they weren't there when we needed them. They won't be there when we need them again. NATO needs the United States a lot more than the United States needs NATO. It is this president's job to call balls and strikes. We know he always does that. And of course, he's doing it in this very moment. And I think rightly so.
So what comes next, Lara? The Wall Street Journal reporting a proposal coming out of the White House that would involve moving U.S. troops out of North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries deemed unhelpful to the Iran war effort and stationing them in countries that were more supportive. The proposal would fall far short of President Trump's recent threats to fully withdraw the U.S. from the alliance, which by law he can't do without Congress. So in summary, the countries that helped us are going to get some of our troops and all the economic benefits that flow from that. The countries that did not help will have troops removed from those countries. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that this is a move that people should probably expect from this president. Again, he looks at things in a very different way than any previous president. And it's the reason I think we've had so much success under his leadership. Look, when you have countries that aren't even allowing us to use bases in these moments, yeah, you say, well, why would we keep our troops there? Why are we there to stabilize things for them anyway? And so I think, you may see this movement. Obviously, this will be up to the Department of War. This will be up to the president to decide what ultimately happens here. But this is just another example, guys, of this president exposing so much. He's exposed things like the fake news media. He's exposed the rot in the swamp in Washington, D.C. And now he's exposing the fact that when push comes to shove and we need our allies, maybe they're not going to be there. And maybe we need to remind them of their responsibility as well as being part of NATO. And so we'll see. Maybe we move some troops around. We'll see what happens.
And Laura.
Oh, my God. Stop. Come on. So the list that she just stated, the list that she literally just stated, what? Stop. She just said he exposed the rot in DC. No, he did not. No, he did not. Because if he really did expose the rot in DC, this would be we'd be in a completely different conversation right now. There'd be so many trials getting ready for all of the people that were exposed in this rot. Ain't he a part of the rot too? Allegedly. Ain't he part of that rot too? So what are you talking about? Stop. Full stop. Stop. Okay? Miss me with that. Oh my God, that unbelievable nonsense. That's just. I think, okay, you know what I find very crazy? I'm gonna say it too, because this is, of course, is Lara Trump. Okay. Whole face done, by the way. I don't think that is naturally her face anymore, but that's another conversation in itself. But I do think it's very strange how much family, like how many Trumps are in the zeitgeist, that are in the media narrative as well. Like how they're all like they have shows on Fox that are part of pushing this agenda, this narrative, this propaganda. Don't you notice that that's a little bit weird? Like, no, we don't see the likes of Donald Jr. having a show, but if you notice, have you noticed that these are people that are either a daughter-in-law or, in direct bloodline to Trump, that are a part of these shows, part of these channels that are out here talking? Like, just saying, when, like, for example, when Obama, for example, when he was in presidency, right? When he was doing his terms, did we see his kids on TV giving us commentary about how the world is being ruled under Obama? Have we ever seen this ever before? It is something of the likes we've never seen before. Huge deal. Have we ever seen this before? I've never seen this before. It's weird. Here's the other thing too, I find very strange, that it's a family affair. Like, have you guys ever thought about that? Like, okay, so you got the likes of Jared Kushner. He's going to be over there to talk peace talks with other world leaders in Islamabad, right? With the likes of Steve Witkoff, son-in-law. This is he's not even part of the administration anymore. See, in the first term, I would get it. Fine. But I'd still say that's wild, because that's his son-in-law. This isn't somebody who was, properly vetted for the job that he had back in the day. Yet he's still a part of Trump's circle. He's discussing whether or not to attack Iran with his son-in-law, who isn't even part of the administration, but he's part of the conversations while in the same rooms as Marco Rubio, an elected, someone who's an appointed official, the likes of Pete Hegseth, who's also an appointed official. You see what I'm saying? Don't you find that a little bit weird? And then you have the kids, or, the kids, boo things on TV that are also pushing the agenda or pushing some sort of propaganda and saying, daddy-in-law could do no wrong. Do you not find that a little weird? I've never seen this before. We've never seen something like this before. This is not normal. Why are we asking Lara Trump what she think? I know she's on TV and she has, her show called My View and all that, but I'm just saying, don't you find that a little weird? Like, of all things, they should not have any place on TV commentating about what their dad-in-law or what their dad is doing. That's weird. That's weird, y'all. No one else finds that weird? We've never seen that before. You don't see Biden's kids on having a show and talking about how things should be and how things should not be and blah, blah, blah on major news networks. Never. I've never that. That's weird. We should all see that as weird. That is just propaganda programming, propaganda brainwashing. Oh, if it's coming from the kids, if it's coming from the daughter-in-law or his kid, then it's cool. It's fine. It's coming from them. They're even doubling down and saying they agree with this message. If that woman got a TV show, she got a show. And the entire time it's Trump can do no wrong. Daddy-in-law Trump can do no wrong. What? That's weird. I'm sorry, that's weird. I'm gonna say it. That's weird. That should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. But let's move on. Let's move on, because MAGA is melting. MAGA is most definitely melting and imploding. And yes, somebody already said, I thought I heard some Alex Jones. Yes, you did. You heard some gay frogs. Let's hear this.
Basically gotten everything at once in the agreement because Trump was desperate to open the Strait of HORMUZ. This is a huge black eye to the United States. I'm glad that Trump didn't engage in increased war crimes or, quote, destroy entire civilization. But this thing, 39 days in, is a total and complete disaster, and we have been right about it.
President Trump's decision to launch the war with Iran divided some of his most loyal and vocal supporters. But today, voices from both sides of this argument among the right appear to be coming to an agreement over the ceasefire, in that the assessment seems to be it does not benefit the United States.
I am a diehard supporter of President Trump, but I'm not celebrating tonight. I don't think that this is good. I think that this actually further legitimizes the Islamic regime in Iran. I think that they're now more legitimized than ever before, and they're more emboldened than ever before to continue oppressing the people in Iran and to continue attacking the United States of America.
All right, my panel is back. But before I talk to them about this, I want to play one more person who you might recognize talking about the language that the president used when he talked about wiping out an entire civilization in Iran, and that's Megyn Kelly. Let's watch what she said.
I don't know about you, but I am sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 3D, yes, shut up. Fucking shut up about that shit. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians just casually in a social media post. This is completely irresponsible and disgusting.
Wow.
Quite something.
Now, I will say this. You obviously know that I'm not a fan of Megyn Kelly. You know, it stretches all the way back to a whole bunch of stuff. There's history. I mean, I've never met the woman, but I'm just saying the things that she has said that are just appalling. But I do agree with what she's saying there. Laura Loomer, who, you know, she's Laura Loomer, okay, who is absolutely 110% a diehard Trump fan, a MAGA till she dies Trump fan, and also was somebody who is sitting on his side for a while before she got kicked out because of things that she was saying too, because she's an extremist as well, just like, you know, Megyn Kelly I think is a racist, absolutely, and I think Megyn Kelly also protects the P words, those PDFs. I'm just going to be real, okay, especially with the Epstein files and everything. She tried to justify that crap, and that knocked her down 15,000 pegs in my opinion. Laura Loomer is Laura Loomer. If you don't know about Laura Loomer, just look her up and you'll see what I'm talking about with the Laura Loomer stuff. Okay. But nonetheless, and then Alex Jones, all three of them, all of them are MAGA till they die. And all of them are now sitting there going like, yo, he was wrong as hell and unhinged for saying what he said, and it's wrong. So no, this isn't just snowflake leftist, out here, Democrats getting all in their fee-fees and feeling so offended and saying, oh, we got to cancel Trump. No, this is coming from MAGA voices, massive MAGA voices that would sit there and say he could do no wrong, rocking the MAGA hats and showing up to these RNCs and these all those big events, basically saying Trump till they die. They are all sitting here and saying this was totally wrong and completely unhinged. Yeah, they all said that. And all of them were basically saying, what about that 2-5? What about that 25th? Can we use that 25th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 25th. Can we get that real quick? Because he's lost his doggone marbles.
Like to take this one, Jamie Gangel.
When you lose Alex Jones, Laura Loomer,
Yep.
and Megyn Kelly, it is not a good day for Donald Trump. I also think it's fascinating because we're also, they're public figures, but also the MAGA base is angry and divided about this. They were angry that he got into the war. Now it seems they feel nothing was achieved. We've always thought that Donald Trump would hold his base no matter what. I'm really interested when we face the midterms, will people stay home? Will this have an impact on those midterms?
Kevin, where do you come down on this? Because there have been a number of different perspectives from the Republican that sits in your chair on this set every day, including some who argue that the Republican base is really more still traditional, what the Republican base has always been. They've been with the president, but they're actually more with him on Iran than some of these loud MAGA media voices that we hear. What do you think?
Well, I think he still has very strong support amongst his base, and he still commands and can mobilize his base very quickly. But is he losing a faction of it? Yes. And Megyn Kelly's sort of sentiment, if that's shared by 15, 20, 25% of that MAGA coalition, that's problematic when you're heading into a 2026 election environment where base motivation is a huge part of how you calculate victory. Because if you added in, and also one other thing I'd say is this didn't start with Iran. Second Amendment voters and Fourth Amendment voters, because of what happened with the immigration enforcement in Minneapolis, they had a lot of clamoring and sort of grumpiness with the president. So this is a sort of a little bit of a trend that the White House has to be very careful about. Because also right now, if you look at numbers with independents, we're going to be the swing part, and that's why they call them battleground districts. That's good. The president's support with those voters, which he actually did pretty well with in 2024, has been declining. So there is a very real political calculation problem here that the White House is facing.
Yeah, and also remember why Joe Biden won. Yes, we were in a pandemic. Yes, the dynamics were very different. At the same time, people just wanted a normal president. And what you...
She's got a point there. I think a lot of people were very, very mad about what happened during that pandemic, during that lockdown. They were not happy with the choices that were being made. And then in comes this election time. People were very mad. It was a very bad ending to, in my personal opinion, a very bad ending to Trump in his first term. And then Biden took over, and then everything went the way it went during Biden's administration. But nonetheless, I think people were getting tired of being lied to. I think people were getting tired of being led astray. I think they were tired of these choices that were being made that were not very good choices done by Trump near the end of the second term, near the end of his first term. I'm sorry. I think that all went down. And yeah, you're not wrong, Angelina. It's like they forgot. But I think they also realized what kind of situation and what kind of shape Biden was in when he was running for his possible second term, right? When they were both running again. That's when we realized, oh, damn, Biden is not in good shape at all, right? And that, I think, deterred a lot of people from voting for Biden instead. And they went for Trump. And maybe they were thinking, okay, maybe we do need maybe we do need this kind of attitude and this kind of person in office. Because right now, those 4 years it was a tough 4 years with Biden. It was. Economically, things were not good at that time, right? But again, like I said, doesn't matter how many stimmy checks you were getting and all that. Things were not getting better near the end of Trump's first term. Things started getting worse because people started dying. People started getting sick. There was a lot of lies being told about what was going on with that Rona. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was all bad.
Heard from Megyn Kelly is a sentiment of a lot of Americans. They don't like the rhetoric. A lot of Republicans just like say that's Trump being Trump. No, but now we are in a war and people believe that he is very dangerous. Now, fast forward to 2028, he's not going to be on the ballot. But who is? J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance has had to go out and defend his every move. So at what point does J.D. Vance see the polling and believe that how do I differentiate myself from Trump in a way that I can win, but not alienate the MAGA base? And I think that is going to be a really big problem for him over the next few years, because as soon as you distance yourself from Trump, Trump will lose it. He will not stand with J.D. Vance. He will start talking about Marco Rubio. Oh, maybe there should be somebody else. And that'll be a difficult situation.
Well, it was Marjorie.
I think it's already going to be, I think Marco Rubio is already on the list. It'll definitely be Vance. Vance is trying to do as much as he can before it's, before it politically implodes on him. Like that this would be a politically detrimental to his career, or detrimental to his political career. But I really don't think he's going to do very well in 2028 unless some miracle happens over these next 2 years. He has to do something brilliant. Sure, he's on the opposite side of this war. He wants peace, but at the same time, he's the one connected to it right now. He's vice president. He is vice president. So again, he would have to do something absolutely brilliant. It would have to be an absolute miracle for him to hop in and do something, for him to be a standout on the ballot in 2028. That's just my personal opinion.
Taylor Brown today in a post, right? Because green things turn brown when they, I forget exactly his language, but called her a traitor again. I mean, to this point that Sochi's making, Mariana, I mean, the New York Times in their sort of fascinating TikTok for this book that Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman are writing, they talked about what Vance was saying in the room, and they wrote this, quote, in front of his colleagues, Mr. Vance warned Mr. Trump that a war against Iran could cause regional chaos and an untold number of casualties, and that it could also break apart Mr. Trump's political coalition and would be seen as a betrayal by many voters who had bought into the promise of no new wars.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually understanding where the MAGA base is. I mean, we saw in 2024, it was all about America first, right? No new wars. And this is the complete opposite of that. And you do see Vance, and it's going to be interesting the next couple of hours, I think the next couple of days, he's part of these negotiations. He is at least positioning himself as the responsible person in the room, trying to have these conversations. And if he is able to also claim victory, as he's obviously saying, you know, this is victorious for Trump already, how does he move forward talking about foreign policy? And that's something he's going to have to contrast himself with when it comes to Marco Rubio, because he's another contender possibly in 2028.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the contenders are, I mean, it doesn't matter right now. Okay. I mean, we all have our opinions on who's going to be up on the ballot when it comes to the election in 2028. But on some real stuff, let's just keep it real. What are we doing here now? We still have an issue where there is no affordable health care for any American here at all, unless you are born with a silver spoon in your mouth or you are a very, very well-to-do, rich individual. Healthcare is out of control. Let's just start there. We got plenty of domestic issues that need to be addressed, that need to be solved and figured out. Not putting all our focus on what's going on, in the Middle East. What we should be focusing on is what's going on here in America and all the problems that we have in America. People are still having a hard time trying to afford a house. People are still having a hard time still even being able to put gas in their car without wondering if they need to sacrifice less food on the table just so they can fill their tank so they can get to work. Okay? We got plenty of issues going on right now that need to be focused on. Real talk. But we're over here fighting a war that we don't even need to be fighting in the first place. But we're fighting it now because somebody decided to throw the first punch without letting anybody know. That is the massive problem. So again, what is wild is that people are having to fight tooth and nail for every little bit that we have. He keeps saying that, America is hotter than it's ever been before. I've always said America has always been hot. It's always been hot. He's just saying that for whatever reason. I don't know. We've had plenty of amazing accomplishments here in America. We are still America, okay? We are still strong as hell. But one thing that is a problem is the way of life for the every average earning everyday human being in America. That is the problem. We are having hard times making money. We got hard times trying to save that money, and we have hard times with the prices that are looming over our head every single freaking day. What are we going to do about that? Okay? What are we going to do about that? Sure, we can disagree about this war. Sure, we can sit there and, wag our finger, shake our finger at his face and say, how dare you? Absolutely. I 110% agree with that. What Trump is doing over there is absolutely insane. But we also have massive problems here in America that need to be figured out by this Trump administration. And none of them are being figured out. Can you believe that there are people that are still paying out of pocket just so they can go and get a routine checkup by the doctor? That should be covered by insurance. But we don't have insurance anymore. The average American does not have insurance anymore because they can't afford it. It costs more for that than it does for a car note if you got good credit. It costs more than the amount that you pay or the amount that you spend on your, let's just say, a half a month of groceries for a family of 4. It's more than that if you are actually still paying for it. That's a massive problem. Yeah, $700 a month plus, guys. And that's for one person. So imagine if you have to do that for your kids, for your family. Making sure that everybody's covered is extremely expensive. Extremely. If you're just doing it for yourself, that, like I said, one person is the equivalent of a household of 4 being able to be fed. That's $700 that only get you through like half the month. Real talk. It only get you through half the month. And that's the reason why you're seeing more and more people renting. You're seeing more and more people not buying homes. More and more people moving back in with their parents just to survive. And if that's what you got to do, there's no shame in that, guys. There's no shame in that at all. But at the same time, there are people that are actually doing that. They have to take a gigantic step backwards just so that they can make sure that there's food on the table for their kids. And that is a huge problem. And yet, we still have an issue going on in Iran that's not making the economy any better. It's making it worse. So Trump's got a lot for him he's got a lot to figure out. Okay? He's got a lot to figure out. And that's what he needs to do is take us out of this war, get our economy back to wherever it was, give us affordable health care again. That would be fantastic. Okay. And stop worrying about trying to get oil everywhere. Because right now, What he's doing is making things worse. He's not making anything better. And that is the massive problem. Look at what you're doing here, Mr. President. Look at what you're doing here in America and how it's affecting us as people. Because we have a lot of hardworking people out here that are working even harder now. Some people are picking up a third or fourth job just so they can get by. That's not how we should be doing. We should be blessed enough and lucky enough to just have the opportunity to work one good paying job that can cover everything. And not us have to have all these other side gigs and selling photos on OF, feet photos on OF just so you can pay your groceries. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. This is not the world that we asked for. So something's got to change. Let me get some of these super chats here really quick. I got a bunch of them. Thank you so much for the support. Cbella, hopefully I'm saying that right. Thank you so much for the love. It has to do with the Greater Israel Project, as written in the in 1982 Oded Yenin Plan. Okay, 40 years ago, the Zionist strategy for the Middle East. They need our warm bodies to accomplish it. Interesting. I don't know about this. This Zionist strategy to for the Middle East. I'm gonna have to look that up. But thank you so much for the suggestion. East Coast Kev, what's up? Thank you so much. America is not great with keeping peace treaties. Yeah, and apparently neither is Iran. Okay, especially and Israel. Let's not forget that. You don't have to take my word for it. The Native Americans can tell better. Yo. That is facts. Nihar, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate the super sticker. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, thank you so much for the love. Vance is playing both sides, faking to become president. Yep. Like I said, he's trying to everything he can to still look good in the general public's eye. So he's like, I don't know, because he knows what MAGA's feeling. And MAGA is not okay with this war. President Trump was at least President Peace, and it was supposed to be that way. And he broke that rule. He broke that promise. He broke that deal with the American people, and especially to his MAGA base. And most of them are mad. And of course, he knows that. And he's like, okay, I got to stay on the other side because that's still a good look for me. So I need to do all that, right? I need to do everything I can to stay looking good. Moving on. Phantomus Fanto, thank you so much for the love. We shouldn't have never let neocon / libs in basement. I don't know what you mean by that, but thank you so much for the super chat. CLJ, thank you so much. Netanyahu almost spit out my water. You're welcome. You're welcome. We're here for the comedy and for the information. The Bella Stella, thank you so much for the love. They are all thugs waiting to line their pockets. Hard facts. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the love. Evolved Niche, thank you so much for being a member for over 19 months. It's a long time. Thank you so much. Hey, Pascal, thank you for all you do. That jacket is fire. Thank you so much. This old thing, I just haven't worn it in a very, very long time. But thank you. Thank you so much. The Bella Stella, again, thank you so much. Trumpachino and Netflix Yahoo sitting on a tree saying, give me all of that money. Yep. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what's going on. But it doesn't make any sense because while Trump is making that deal of potentially getting a little bit of the entrance fee into Strait of Hormuz, I don't think he's cutting Netanyahu in on that deal. And that could make Netanyahu feel some type of way as well. Yeah. So, Suki, thank you so much for the love. Oh, Suki now. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Makes me think of what is it? True Blood. Suki. oh, Suki. But anyway, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate it. Buddha. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for gifting 1 membership. Welcome to the family, you new member. And Ziggy, welcome to the family. Thank you so much. Supermate, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. The Bella Stella. Mainstream media lies. The UAE already declared we're not entering the war and want the diplomatic route. But here's the thing. I feel like there are other countries just like UAE that are echoing the same thing, right? That they're not wanting, they don't want no problems. They just want to continue living in peace, figure out this peace treaty or some peace agreement, ceasefire, stop dropping bombs on us, stop dropping bombs on our country, and so we can keep living our lives, and not every single time we hear that siren, we start having panic attacks and are thinking that this is our last day on earth. You know what I mean? Yeah, there needs to be some changes for sure. Absolutely. Ride the Guy, thank you so much for the love. Appreciate it. You can't save a drowning man who is also drowning you. Woo! Then you both drown. That's essentially what's happening right now. That is absolutely 110% very true. But what's interesting, they're now both separately. If we're talking about like Netanyahu and Trump, it's kind of like now they're separating, right? Trump's trying to do one thing while Netanyahu is still on the agenda. So they're kind of drowning in their own ponds right now, if that makes any sense. Moving on. Oh yeah, again, grifters say, grifters, they will still, grifters, they will still vote for Trump. I call cap. Most likely. I mean, he can't vote. They can't vote for him again. But the people, though, the moderates, especially the moderates who, flip flop every year. One year one voting session, one voting time, they vote blue. The next time they vote red. They just kind of hop back and forth. I think a lot of them are going to start voting blue. Real talk this time around. But that's the thing. Even we need somebody on the blue, okay? And we need somebody in the red that can really speak to the people, not be as bombastic, not like, kind of have a good hybrid. Someone who can be, tough as nails, not mess around, but also somebody who's very, that has that charisma, that can be a people person and all that, and not be a butthole, not be a bully, but be stern, but also be respectful at the same time while getting their point across. That's what we need. We don't need the punk rock crap anymore. And we don't need somebody we're worried about him or them taking over and changing it into, the Third Reich. We need somebody who can actually push this country forward into a productive and successful new era. Not what we're seeing right now. This is not successful. I don't see this as a successful era. Okay. As he said, the golden age, America's golden age. I don't see it. Not yet, though. He still has 2 years. So maybe he'll surprise us in the next 2 years. But I don't see him doing that anytime soon. But time will only tell. Black Lake, thank you so much for the love. Vance, it's Rubio 2028. Yep. I'm thinking it's going to be up to them. It's going to be up to both of them. I mean, okay, so Vance really needs to step forward and stop being a wet noodle. That's what I truly think. He needs to step forward, stop being a wet noodle, show a little bit of huevos, okay? Show that he got cojones, cabron, and stand up for himself. He can't do like what Pence did. By the way, whatever happened to Pence? Does anybody know what happened to Pence? Did he get that scared off of J6 and he just disappeared? He just vanished and just vaporized? He literally just faded into the darkness. Whatever happened to that dude? But he cannot do like Pence. He cannot. He needs to step forward and stand out. But he needs to stand out and stop being so diplomatic on everything. Seriously. That's what I think. Angelina, thank you so much for the love. Off topic, but where is Stephen Miller, Dr. Evil? Don't know. Don't even care. He can sit down forever and not ever be seen ever again. But yeah, where is he? That's a good point. Where is he? Just like Pence. Whatever happened to Pence? That Leslie Nielsen looking ass with his Anderson Cooper hair, white hair. You know what I'm saying? Whatever happened to that dude? He just disappeared. After J6, he was like, I'm out. He really did, like, just dipset, right? But again, Vance cannot go out like Pence. You see what I'm saying? So Vance has got to stay up in the forefront. He has got to, okay? And he's got to come in and show he's got some, not just being a well-spoken individual. He can't just be a great orator, okay? Orator, whatever, okay? He can't just be great at speaking. He really got to show more than just that, okay? But that's the thing. We need somebody who's going to be presidential to be president. Can be hard as nails, but also can be presidential. We need that. And preferably, no disrespect, I'm not trying to be an ageist, but somebody who's a little bit younger than 70 or 80 years old. That would be great. Just saying that out loud. We need a little change. We need a little change, okay? Just in my personal opinion. But guys, I got to wrap up the show, guys. Unfortunately, I got to wrap the show up. But, I may be back on a little bit later on this evening. If things continue to pop off, we might find out what's going on. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. Oh, here's the other thing, too. The missing woman, Lynette Hooker, the girl that was missing, the 55-year-old woman that was missing out in the Bahamas. Yeah, her husband got arrested in connection to her disappearance, possible murder, just so you know. So he got arrested by Bahama police because he is probably most likely lying. So I just want to let you guys know about that too. Just, a little side note, for you guys, he did that. Him guilty for sure. Oh yeah, she fell over the dinghy and then stop. I don't believe it, especially with a history of violence that coming out of that dude's face. Nah, I'm good on that. But that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of the conversation. You could be watching any other show, but you decided to stick around and watch this monstrosity called The Pascal Show, and that means the world to me. Thank you so much for being here. It really means the world. Please do me a favor before you head out. Hit the like button down below. Crush it. Can we get it to 1K before we leave? That'd be greatly appreciated. It helps the algorithm. It helps the show and all that. So please hit that like button down below. Please and thank you. Also, don't forget to hit that follow button if you're watching on these other platforms. And if you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick, follow. Hit that subscribe button here. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Set it to all so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because honestly, it's random. Okay? It is random. So make sure you do that. Please and thank you. Hit that join button down below. Become a member. Support the channel if you can. Check out my Patreon, which is in the ticker down below right there. Go check it out if you can. And of course, check out PascalMerch.com. PascalMerch.com. We got some really great stuff over there. Go check it out. PascalMerch.com. Okay, guys, it is time to get going. Much love to you guys. Stay safe out there, and we will talk very, very soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.